Okay, now who's with me now? Hi, how are you, dear? Always let me know that because that threw me off. I said, wait, wait, wait.
I'm
Oh, no, no,
sorry.
no, 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 no. That's something that
Our basement defender
that
customers have the
person
ultimate
in
peace of
charge
mind.
should do. But
They
how are
know
you
that their
doing?
pump equipment is working.
I'm doing all right. A little early, but we're here. It's a
Oh, honey,
Friday.
this is
Ask about the
welcome,
basement
welcome to the
defender.
wonderful world
800-421-SEAL.
of
Thank you.
of this. Get up! I had a
This
television
is
hit at
WCPT
4:45 this
Better
morning.
Minute. During
And
the
you
Civil
just
War,
you say,
11%
okay.
of the
Then I've got
Confederate
one as soon
Army
as I get off
was
the
made up
air.
of
And then I've got
enslaved
one
men
tonight at
forced to
9:30.
One of these men was Robert Smalls.
You know, it's the nature
Smalls
of
was
the
a
beast,
deckhand on the Confederate
and
supply
you
ship known
have to
as
be
the
ready
Planter.
to roll with it.
During his time,
Lovely young lady.
Right, right.
If that is your
15 others could
pronoun, let
escape.
me
And on May
be
3rd,
clear
Yes.
on that. No, I just
1862, while
I've
officers
seen
were
that happen
sleeping,
before. If you would
Smalls,
please
along with
check
16 others, took
the
the Planter
volume. I mean
out
the
of the Charleston
sound,
harbor,
because I'm up
navigating through all
on
5 checkpoints while heading
I'm
to
up
open
on
waters,
StreamYard, which
looking
is
for the Union
YouTube
blockade. Smalls raised a white flag of surrender, and
and
Union
Facebook.
soldiers boarded the ship, giving them guns, ammo, and documents about planned Confederate attacks. Getting a wealth of information, Smalls was given the role of the Union Navy captain. Stories like Smalls are one of the many
Okay,
factors convincing
Pastor,
Sure.
can you
allow free African Americans to serve in the Union Army. This has been
Sure.
WCPT
A, B,
Better
C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R,
We're
S,
live.
Coming live. So
no? Can you hear
W,
her?
X, Y, Z.
Can you hear her on YouTube and Facebook?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, let me know. Okay, thanks so much. And please mute me when she is on so that I can download a couple more documents. Thank you. All right, let's have a great show, everybody.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Getting a little bit of feedback. Let's work that out. Wonderful. I am Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. And, you hear my little pumpkin in the background because I've got some information. We're going to be talking about the migrant crisis. So call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. You can join the chat on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Join Robert Williams and Dawn. And let me see who else is over here, because you all are streaming in. Jewel from New York and Barbara Bacon from Oak Park and Madeline Ray. Hey, girl, it's been a minute. So let's talk about this. And let's talk about why so many migrants are here, particularly Venezuelans. 7.3 million Venezuelans have been forced to flee from their homes over the past few years. And why is that? Well, there has been a serious effort on the part, not just of the American government, but of American corporations to take the oil from Venezuela. They have one of the largest reserves, if not the largest reserve in the world, some of the best, highest quality oil. And we have been seeking to undermine them for decades, and imposing the imposition of sanctions and all of the policies that we've instituted against these left-wing governments in Venezuela that have sought to take the wealth, the riches of their oil to the people. So oftentimes they nationalize them after they have been privatized, and through the privatization, the people have been disadvantaged, if you will. They've been raped by the corporate world. And so these, the Gaddafis and the Chavezes and the Castros, yes, they go in and they say, wait a minute, we are on rich land, but we are poor people. Something is off here. So what we're going to do is change all of that around. Well, that is what Venezuela is dealing with. And that happened, and they were helping Haiti and Nicaragua and Cuba. And those persons were at the border as well. So and now they're here. And now some of them are going to be deported. So let's talk about why they're here and why people who have lived here for generations, who've been citizens, are being overlooked. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, who's with us right now, said, more than a couple of years ago that COVID is a snitch. Yeah, you did say it. And you said it's a snitch. Why, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, before I go to the headlines?
Because it revealed those things that already existed. So it didn't necessarily create problems. It just shed a light on so many of the problems that we already had.
Amen.
It told on us.
It told on us. What the migrants have, they've told on us. They've told on us. Even though you can work very, very hard in California, you cannot afford to live in the state. It's too expensive. You cannot afford to live in New York City. Increasingly, you cannot afford to live in Chicago. The median rent in the United States is $2,000 a month. How many of you can afford that? How many? 99% of the counties in the United States today are unaffordable. That is to say, Americans cannot buy homes in 99% of the counties in the United States. That's the American dream in 2023. So they're pulling back the covers on all of this. And while they are being assisted, while they're getting financial assistance, well, you know what? Oh, Savior, do not pass me by. The American government needs to assist all Americans because all Americans need help. You can't afford to go to the emergency room. Let's just keep this. If we're going to dig down in this conversation, let's dig down in the conversation. So I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Let's get right to it. I want you to let me know what you think about this migrant situation. Is it a crisis or is it an opportunity to really make things right? The Biden administration, according to the Washington Post, will build new barriers, a wall on the southern border to try to curb a record number of illegal crossings. It's a shift for President Biden, who said while campaigning in 2020 that he would not build another foot of wall. The U.S. said yesterday it will resume deportation flights of Venezuelans 2 weeks after extending special status to those who arrived by July 31st. At least 52 people were killed by a Russian strike in eastern Ukraine. A drone strike on a Syrian military academy killed at least 80 people, and a jailed Iranian activist was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Congratulations to them. And we dedicate the show to two giants, one of whom you know, but those of us who are in the church, we know Vernon Oliver Price, one of the Oliver sisters. Of course, many of us know Loretta Oliver, the famous soloist from Fellowship and the Operation Push and Operation Breadbasket choirs. But the Oliver sisters have lifted us in the greatest of times. They're contemporaries of Mahalia Jackson's and Albertina Walker's, and they are giants. And we thank God for Vernon Oliver Price. And of course, her son was a temptation. Hey, hey, hey. Love it, love it, love it. The musical gifts just kept on going in that family. And Dick Butkus, one of the most feared defensive men in the history of the NFL, at the age of 80, made his transition. A native of Chicago, and eight out of 9 seasons made the Pro Bowl. He was a giant. Thank you, Dick Butkus, for so many of the wonderful memories that you have given us. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 61 degrees. It will be clear. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 52 degrees, partly cloudy. In Major League Baseball, well, we have a moment off as we go into these league championships. And when they return, we will have the Rangers facing off against the Orioles, the Twins facing off against the Astros for the first time in 21 years, everybody. The Phillies facing off against Atlanta, the Diamondbacks facing off against the Dodgers. Speaking of the Dodgers, one of their part owners, Magic Johnson, will be speaking here today. Thank you, Melissa Conyers-Irvin, for bringing him here for this Empowerment Economic Summit. And in the NFL, guess what? The Bears won last night. And they won big, 40-20 over the Washington Commanders. You don't know how momentous that is, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. I can't even. This is the first time something like this has happened in 1,001 days. How you doing, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams?
I am doing well. Certainly celebrating the lives of those two giants with you. The opportunity to hear your beloved Sister Price sing just 2 weeks ago at Fellowship. And so what a joy and what a life, what a legacy. And certainly to Dick Butkus, the Bears.
The Bears. Oh, yeah. Because I just saw Vernon Oliver Price. I'm like, I just saw her. Wait a minute. And somebody saw her bowling 2 nights ago. But it lets us know.
Wow.
Oh yeah, oh, no, 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 no. I mean, and they kept it moving, and I have a special affection for them because they look just like my mother, and in particular, my mother's mother. I mean,
Mhm.
they could be almost twins. They look like
Yeah.
my grandmother Gertrude, and so. But there's some of the greatest singers produced really in the history of the American church, and we just thank God for Vernon Oliver Price, who sang until the very end. And I'm glad that we got a chance to honor them at the Rainbow Push International Conference this year. So, what's the good news, and how can we worship with you on Sunday?
Yes. Well, you can worship with us on Sunday via YouTube on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe, First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton at 11 a.m. We'd love to have you for sure. Well, today, the good news is with so many things happening in our world, and just because things are happening publicly, we cannot dismiss all of the issues and things that we suffer privately. And sometimes, honestly, if we're being truthful this morning, we just don't know what to do. And so that's the message today. What do you do when you don't know what to do? What do you do when you don't know what to do? And I tend to look at this through the lens of Matthew 6:32. And so what do you do when you don't know what to do? There are 5 things to do. First, seek God's guidance. Matthew 6:33 reminds us, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. So the first thing we do when we don't know what to do is we seek. We seek God's guidance through prayer and meditation, asking for wisdom and clarity in our decision-making processes. The second thing we have to do is not only seek, but trust. Trust in God's provision. We don't worry about tomorrow because tomorrow is going to worry about itself. How many people know that worrying about tomorrow is not going to help you today? It'll do nothing to add value to your life. And so you have to put your trust in God's provision, knowing that God will provide what you need in due time. Have faith and guide you toward the right path. So we seek, we trust. What do we do when we don't know what to do? Reflect. Reflect on your priorities, the kingdom, the righteousness. Take time to reflect on your priorities and align them with God's will. Consider what truly matters in light of your faith and how your decisions align with the seeking of God's kingdom, the seeking of God's wisdom, the seeking of God's provision. So we seek God's guidance, trust in God's provision, reflect on your priorities, and then look to wise counsel. Now, notice what I said. I didn't say any counsel, wise counsel. That makes all the difference in the world because plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. Look to the counsel of wise and trusted individuals like mentors, friends, spiritual leaders. Their perspective and insight can help provide valuable guidance that you need to make informed decisions about what to do when you don't know what to do. What to do when you don't know what to do? Seek God's guidance, trust in God's provision, reflect on your own priorities, seek wise counsel, and lastly, do something. Take action with faith. What to do when you don't know what to do? Do something. Take action, and all these things will be given to you as well. After you seek God's guidance, reflect on priorities, seek counsel, take action. Trust that God will lead you in the right direction. Have confidence that God will provide for your needs as you step forward. Let me make this a little plain. There's a saying that we say now saying, I have receipts. And when you say I have receipts, it means you have proof of something that occurred. It's just like in real life. We have receipts. We have a track record with God. If God did it before, God can do it again. So tally your receipts, your track record with God. And it's easier than you think because even in life, there's very little we can do without receipts. We can't get on an airplane without receipts. Our seat can't be upgraded without a receipt. We can't get food without a receipt. We can't have safe passage without a receipt. We can't be elevated and promoted without receipts, without proof of what we've been through, proof that we paid the price. So I want to encourage somebody today. Remember your receipts. Remember your track record with God. If God did it before, God is faithful to do it again. And so, what do you do when you don't know what to do? Seek, trust, reflect, find wise counsel, take action, have faith, and do an audit of your righteousness receipts with God. And that's the good news.
I love that. Thank you for that. Because boy, when you don't know what to do, I mean, it's like, what? And that happens all the time to me.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, wait. Let me be honest. And oftentimes we just move mindlessly, and you're not supposed to do that. And God puts
Yeah.
people in your path, wise counsel. Thank you for that. Thank you. Again, how can we worship with you on Sunday? And I know we can hear some of your past sermons in the same space.
Yeah, absolutely. Please make sure to worship with us on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. Look for the First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton, and please subscribe to our channel.
Sending you so much love today. Sending you so much love, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. And of course, your book, I See You, Sis, is on Amazon. Everybody get it. It's going to be a blessing to you. You're going to see yourself, my sisters and my brothers. You're going to see the women in your lives. You're going to see your mama. You're going to see everybody. And that's the key. Is together we make up humanity, men and women together. And all of us fit somewhere. I don't care how you classify yourself. We all fit somewhere. So let's be about the business of loving each other. Love you, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams.
You have a great day.
Blessings to you. I needed that today. I know you did too. Hey, everybody, call us at 773-763-9278. We're talking about this migrant crisis, or is it an opportunity? Or has it exposed a lot of the shortcomings that we have in our system? Homelessness has been a very real problem for a long time, but now we can talk about it. People need relief. People need help. Everybody's gotten relief and help in the United States but Black people. We were promised 40 acres and a mule when we came out of slavery. We didn't get that. But we kept on pushing, building communities, and then they were bombed by our fellow white citizens. We need to talk about that. Because, Black people are in their feelings about this, and there's justification for that. You're going past people who've been here for generations to help people who just got here, and they should be assisted. They should be supported. But so should the people who were already here, the indigenous people, Black people, brown people, everybody, yellow people, everybody. There's enough in the system to take care of everybody, but you can't do that and war at the same time. Oops, did I say that? Dr. Shanina Knighton, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. What is the word on this? We're about to take a sharp turn with the weather this weekend. I mean, it's amazing. It went from feeling like the summer. It's going to plunge like 30, 40 degrees in many places.
Yes, it is.
Does that
Absolutely
put a particular stress on the immune system?
So it does, only because like our body will require some adjustment. And I will tell you, this is a notion where I'll be saying stay ready so you don't have to get ready. If you're under stress, if you know that you're eating, let's say, sugary products or eating foods with additives, then long story short, it's going to happen fast. And you may get caught vulnerable. And then on top of that, as the weather is changing, you're thinking about the fact that, like, hey, if I don't have something on my head, if my pores are open, if things are unfavorable, then long story short, you end up being sick. And so with the weather getting ready to take a plunge, the other piece of that is more people are going to be ill. They're going to, let's say, be dwelling indoors. And when I say dwelling indoors, meaning that if it is going to be cold outside, that means that there's going to be less individuals that are going to be outside. There's also going to be less windows that will be down when riding in a car. And when speaking of the illness piece, I'm not saying, oh, yeah, everybody out here getting ready to get sick. But when we talk about autumn leaves, fall sneeze, colds toppled with allergies, colds toppled with, a lot of other factors. There are environmental factors that would then trigger asthma. So we're talking about many conditions that come on because of the cold weather. And as a result of that, if someone is already ill, those droplets that someone may say is still an allergy. Santita, I say it all the time, a droplet is still a droplet is still a droplet. So now I'm going to tie that back into what I just mentioned with people dwelling indoors. That means that if you are indoors or you're in a car, if you have that recirculation button on in the car and the windows are up, that means that everybody in the car is breathing in the same exact air. That means that that air that's circulating is being shared by each individual. So if someone does have a common cold, if someone does have COVID, and someone does have RSV, where right now that is the real battle amongst older adults, by the way.
Well, hold on,
So
really
between
quickly.
RSV and COVID.
Well, hold on. So when we're circulating that air, when I breathe out, you breathe in. When you breathe out, I breathe in your air. Is that what you're saying?
No, actually a little bit different. So
Okay.
there's this button in your car, and it's the arrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
The arrow goes around in a circle. If that arrow is clicked, that means that you're not getting any clean air from outside. You're getting recirculated air only in the car. So you're recirculating the air that is being breathed and exchanged opposed to any air that's coming in from the outside of the vehicle.
So I guess
And so that's why I
so
say
we're exchanging each other's air, or it's just the air in the car?
air in the car and air from each other, because we all breathe. Yeah.
I'm going to give you a chance to finish this on the other side very quickly. We're moving quickly today, but I want to hear your thoughts on the migrant crisis. It's become a real issue in Chicago, in Los Angeles, in New York. But it's interesting. We're a sanctuary city, but it's actually a sanctuary state, which is why we need to know what Governor Pritzker's going to do, and why and how the rest of the state can share the responsibility. Yeah, you shouldn't just drop everybody off in Chicago. You can drop people off many places in the state of Illinois. Back with the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Thank you all so much. And you're about to hear this printer again that's about to drive you nuts. But I got to pull this stuff out. I have got to... In the middle of the night, I got a few thoughts, because I said I know more about Venezuela than I'm saying, and we need to look at this. Okay, here we go. Okay, but how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I am doing fine, thank you. I'm doing fine. Here we go. Okay. Because this migrant crisis has become a real crisis here, and it justice. And okay, we can hear that on the air. Okay, very good. So it's a lot, hun. But you doing okay today?
I am doing good.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, like feeling a little bit more rested than what I did from the beginning of the week.
Ooh. Okay, I love that. I gotta tell you, I am tired. But I had to go out last night because they were honoring my brother, and I wanted to be supportive. So
That's awesome.
Oh, honey, I was texting straight through that event. I was like, I gotta get my guest, and I gotta get the focus for the show. I mean, you're always doing that, and and that's why you leave the TV and the radio and all this other stuff on. Because you're trying to find out what's going on. Then I need a little quiet so I can clear my own head, because that was like 7.3 7.3 million Venezuelans. Something is
Hi,
going
Ms.
on.
Jackson.
Yes.
We have Attorney Connolly, Attorney Sanat, Attorney Patillo, Dwight McKee, and Reverend Thurston ready to go.
Okay, very good. Okay. How's everyone this morning?
We also have 2 minutes before the break.
Okay, very good. You all keep talking amongst yourselves. I have got Dr. Shanita Knighton on, so please say hello to her. I'm trying to take care of some other business over here.
Hey, Dr. Knighton, how you doing? Hey, Dr. Nee.
Dr. Knighton?
Good morning. How are you? How are you this
Fine.
morning?
How you doing today?
Pretty good. I cannot complain. It is Friday. I ain't gonna lie though, that don't mean too much in my world because I'm still working. But it's just nice to think that the rest of the world is slowing down a little bit.
For a holiday on Monday that I'm not going to feel it, but I hope everybody else does. This was you know what I think? This was my daddy-daughter date weekend when I was growing up. It was, we would go to the Ebony Fashion Fair. Of course, I went with him and my mom. Come on, you guys. But this was like, Stephen, this was like, he was saying, this is daddy-daughter date night. Oh, girl. Oh, yeah, I loved that fashion fair. I mean, it was big fun. We'd go to a little reception. I had my new outfit. And I was up past 10 o'clock. We were off from
30
school the next
seconds.
day. Thank you so much, sweetie. It was just great. I'm going to see my father. I'm going to talk to him about it today. Say, remember that? It was so much fun. And he put me on his arm and walked me down the aisle. My mother was like, honey, better you than me. I will catch up. Oh, you look, you know how my mother is. You're like, honey.
Stand by.
But no, but she was very, very supportive. She was like, this is sweet. Isn't that sweet that your father wants to do this for you?
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. I wanted Dr. Knighton in 1 minute to close out because she was giving us some information about how we can protect ourselves as the temperatures are about to plunge. They're about to plummet now. We've been saying, oh, it feels like summer. It's great. But, well, now that's about to be over, everybody. I'm going to be smelling like mothballs for the next couple of weeks as I'm pulling out my sweaters. So here we go. But Dr. Knighton, you were just giving us some heads up about keeping the air, I guess, fresh and refreshed where we are.
Well, more so particularly just reminding individuals that as the weather gets cold, you might be, let's say, doing ride shares. You may be riding in a car with family members. You may be inside of a home, let's say, with no windows open. And I'm just reminding people that recirculated air or the lack of fresh air can honestly increase the risk of you becoming ill. What happens is when you are in the car, there is a button, and the button has an arrow that goes around almost in a circle. It actually looks more so like a U shape, but it's to the left side where it's the arrow, and then it kind of goes into a U, a narrow U. That button means that if it is clicked, the air, and this is with no windows being open, that the air that's moving around in the car is the air that you are breathing in, and it is the air that is inside of the car. That means that there is no outside air that is coming in from outside of the vehicle. So if someone coughs or sneezes, there is an increased chance that those droplets are going to be transferred between individuals that are in the car. Same thing if you are in a home and let's say you're in a room, a small room or something, then if there is no window open and there are people in there that are, of course, exchanging words, meetings, whatever the case may be, then if the windows are not open, they too are also exchanging CO2. And so you have to remember when we breathe oxygen in, CO2 out, that's how we're able to detect the concentration of the air in regards to like how much air is not being exchanged. And when that CO2 level is high, then that means that there isn't any air that's really moving. So what I'm giving you in terms of information is because it has been tested, and we understand that in closed-in environments and in environments where there is no air circulating, you have the risk of increased droplets, which is therefore going to increase your risk of coming in contact with droplets of someone that is known to be ill or they are unknown to be ill.
Everybody, please follow Dr. Knighton in social media. Hey, Dr. Nita, you need to get this information. These are things that panel we don't even think about. Of course, joining us today, and Dr. Knighton wants to listen to what Pastor Stephen Thurston, New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church, has to say. Robert Patillo, attorney Robert Patillo, host, and from the National Rainbow Push leadership team. What do you have to say? WAOK down in Atlanta every Sunday from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. Attorney Aaron Connolly, one of the country's foremost political organizers and pundits. And of course, Dwight McKee, social scientist. And we have got attorney Anastasia Sanat. She's the president of the Haitian American Lawyers of Illinois Association. Brilliant attorney and an expert really in the area of immigration. So let's start with you, Aaron Connolly. Just very quickly, I want to go around the panel. What do you see with this immigrant crisis when you see these headlines? I think because Mayor Johnson has chosen to fix the problem and not the blame. He's been taking a lot of hits. At the same time, though, you have people who've been historically ignored and betrayed in the United States who are not getting any assistance. Every time people are brought into the United States, everybody gets assistance, but Black folks get bombed. So, you've got those competing dynamics. What are we looking at in terms of this migrant crisis? I'm hearing something in the background, everybody. So if you could, okay, very good. Attorney Connolly, your thoughts.
Well, good morning, Santita, and good morning to this wonderful panel on a bright Chicago morning. The sun's coming up, and I think you were really right on when you talked about how Mayor Johnson is handling this. He is looking at this as a never-ending. This is not a new crisis for our city, for our state, for our nation, and it's not in a silo. He's not looking at it as just the city of Chicago. And unfortunately, for some folks who are used to the instant gratification of solutions many times, unfortunately, the big solution is gonna take a lot longer, and it makes it really important to have partners at the table that have that same mindset and understand that we all have to work together to not only solve the current acute crisis of migrants being trafficked really up from Texas and border states into the city of Chicago and to cities like New York, other places throughout the country in the northern United States, right? So that's the acute crisis. Where are these people going to stay? How will they have triage medical care? One of my close friends is triaging a lot of the families and women at hospitals on the west side, and sees a huge uptick in women who don't have the proper resources to take their babies home and care for them properly. So there's massive mutual aid organizations who've come together, including the faith-based communities, who are an important partner in this, to triage this basic care that is needed right away. We need winter coats, we need socks, we need hats. These folks need to prepare for winter. And at the same time, we hear from our fellow Chicagoans and Illinoisans on the ground that say, I lost my job in COVID. I've been homeless. I'm struggling. Where am I getting the type of support that these folks are? And I think Mayor Johnson has the values, character, and vision to be able to see all of those pieces in one screen and say, we have to help everyone, right? And I think that's the plan that's being implemented. And like I said, people aren't happy with how slow things are moving, or maybe how information is communicated to them. But there is a true sense of solving this problem and helping the people. These are people. We are forgetting this. These are not numbers on a list. These are not just names on a manifest that Greg Abbott is sending up from Texas. These are little children. And those same children are homeless on our streets in Chicago and have been here for a while. So we have to look at the people problem here. And the thing that I see that's frustrating, that I see reflected in some of the feedback, is that it doesn't seem like our partners are all working together with that same mission and values, right? This is a federal government issue. This is a state issue. This is a city issue. And the local municipalities that, frankly, do have some space to house a portion of this population outside of the city of Chicago need to step up in collaboration, because when one piece, even if it's the strongest piece on our map, right, the city of Chicago, when people think of Illinois, that's the first thing they think of many times.
Yeah, but they shouldn't.
And
it's a sanctuary state. Right? You know, I mean,
exactly.
It's not just a sanctuary
state.
It's a sanctuary state. So it's a state problem, but you have the city. And all of these, you know, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, they have black mayors and they're bearing the burden. And this is a sanctuary state. So, you know, but also, you know, the same plan of support that you apply to these people who've been pushed out of their countries, they're running away from Venezuela. 7.3 million of them have been pushed out over the past few years because America's corporations, using our military as muscle men and women, have been trying to take their oil. Now let's just put it where it is. You got to look at, you know, Aaron.
Yeah.
You got to look at. I need to move around to the panel, but we have to look at all of these pieces at the same time. But you know, Anastasia Sanat, how do you see this? Because it's not just Venezuelans. Is Attorney Sanat there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. No, I couldn't hear you before. Okay. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, I was thinking about all of the migrants that have been, I guess you can say, bust from Texas and Arizona, here from California as well. And it has been my experience that I've had to kind of cater to what I call the Black immigrant, right? And I say that because I am Haitian, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the things that we've noticed in the news is that the brown immigrants, our brothers and sisters, are constantly being talked about. So if you speak Spanish, there seems to be a lot more services and resources available for those migrants. But when it comes to the Black migrant that speaks a different language, such as French or Haitian Creole, there doesn't appear to be a lot of resources available for those migrants. So they consistently contact HALA of Illinois in order to try to find a lawyer, in order to try to explain their rights. So what we've been doing in order to prepare has been, quite frankly, collecting volunteers. So there's a number of different volunteers here in Chicago that we've collected that are going to be interpreting the law for these migrants that are here, and hoping that we can get them to complete some applications. We've had a number of law students looking for volunteer work hours that have been trying to do that, but it's been difficult because some of the law students also do not speak the language. So the volunteer interpreters have been helpful to us. One of the other problems that we're having with the migrants is, and I applaud Mayor Johnson for trying. Okay, let me put that out there. I applaud him for trying to house so many people. But in housing and shelter being provided, some other basic necessities are not being provided, like how can they get a haircut, right? And as you know, 4C hair or Black people hair is a little different to trim, to fade up, and to do all those things. And so we need people in the community, not necessarily to fight against us, but to work with us in order to make sure the migrants get taken care of. I understand that I think the city council last week, there was a council member who had mentioned that it seems as if we're putting effort and energy into the migrants more than we are to the people that are here in the city of Chicago. And I would disagree with that, because first and foremost, we're helping each other. We're helping the human being that we see. So when they go up, we should all go up with them. And some of these things can be helpful if we can think of them creatively. For example, there's a lot of abandoned buildings and properties and things like that throughout the city of Chicago. If we can refurbish those places and have the people from the city work on them and bring about, just regular low-income housing, we should be able to have it mixed, not only with migrants, but the people in the city who have been displaced due to the pandemic and not being able to continually afford where they live, because there's a large homeless population here in Chicago. Just before the 2016, remember, all of them were, I don't know where they went, but a lot of people went somewhere. But now they're coming back, and now they're more visible. You see them on the expressway. You see them on the Dan Ryan. You see them underneath the viaducts.
But Attorney Sinat,
I just didn't know where they went.
No, they didn't go anywhere.
Am I wrong?
They're in crawl spaces. But Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams said something about COVID that was so brilliant, and she said it in the midst at the height of the pandemic. She said COVID is a snitch. We were like, whoa, what is that? She said it has uncovered the problems that already existed. Homelessness has already been real. We have 16 million vacant units of housing across the United States, across every state. And the fact is, we are not treating people equally. We welcome migrants in. We do. And the whiter you are, the more you're welcome. But the fact is, Black people have been betrayed constantly. And that is why you hear Black people in their feelings. They're not anti anybody. They're saying, wait a minute. I struggle here every day. Remember, a civil war was not only fought about our freedom, but it was fought. We had to amend the Constitution so that we were no longer migrant workers and were citizens, because we were not citizens after the war. They wanted to send us to Liberia. That's how you got Liberia free, right? So it's just. Do we need to open our hearts? Absolutely. Do we need to be clear on our history and connect the dots? That's why I had to look at 7.3 million Venezuelans escaping their country. What is going on here? Something's going on. I've gone on enough international missions with Reverend, and then when you get there, you meet these leftist governments, because they all have, game peeps game. They see Reverend as a freedom fighter. So Hugo Chavez and Castro and all of these freedom fighters, they welcome him as a head of state. They're like, hey, we're fighting the same fight, and we embrace you. Well, what's all the people who are also there, panel, Soros Sanat, Chevron, the corporations, and they all want to meet with Reverend because they're like, oh my goodness, they've nationalized the resources, so we can't steal from them the way we used to. So Reverend, could you help us to get a meeting with the president? Because they really don't like us. He's like, no, it's not that they don't like you. They don't like what you're doing. So, but stay right there, because I that's why I wanted to open the conversation up. Robert Patillo, your thoughts?
Well, this is one of the oldest tricks in the book when it comes to America. And when I say oldest tricks in the book, I mean, there's writings from Benjamin Franklin back in the mid 1750s and 1760s talking about the danger of allowing all these migrants in from Germany. And how that is diluting the population, how they are taking resources and opportunities away from poor British people and destroying the genetic makeup of their land. Benjamin Franklin did not consider anybody who was not British to be white. And he said that the mongrel stock, as he called it, of Germans, and he accepted Saxons because Anglo-Saxons were related, but French and the Spaniards and the Swedes in particular, he felt that they were going to destroy the racial dynamics that existed in America. And from then on forward, the policy of America has been, as long as I can keep everybody at the bottom fighting each other, they're not going to turn their attention up top to the people who are really causing the problems. So if I can keep the poor black folks thinking that these poor migrants are their problem, they're going to fight against the poor migrants and not against the corporations that are stealing and destroying their communities. If I can keep the poor white people thinking that these poor black people that are absorbing all their opportunities, taking all the welfare checks, taking all the food stamps, etc., well, then no one's going to talk about the fact that Elon Musk is building another spaceship with all the tax cuts and government contracts that he's receiving. You know, if I can keep those same poor white people in Appalachia mad at these migrants who are coming to quote unquote take their jobs, well, then no one's going to pay attention to the fact that J.P. Morgan Chase is paying damn near no taxes in this country, and we could balance our budget on their backs instead of ours. This is the game that they play continuously, and it works every single time because xenophobia and jingoism and the fear of otherness is intrinsic into the American ethos. And as long as we can keep people fighting down at the bottom, no one's going to look up to the top and see what the actual problem is. This is a very solvable problem. We've actually had a solution on the table since 2013. Chuck Schumer had a compromise in place that would have enhanced border security, created pathway to citizenship, enhanced our guest worker program, dealt with the issue for dreamers, stopped the root causes of migration from the beginning. Republicans walked away from the table. They came back in 2015 with a Obama compromise on the same issue, very similar to the Schumer compromise. Republicans walked away. They brought the same thing to President Trump in 2018. He was on the cusp of signing in February of 2018. That's when he made the notorious S-hole countries comment, and also he tried to trade Puerto Rico for Greenland. That is a thing that actually happened because they wanted to bring more white migrants into America than brown and black migrants, and that's how that got blown up then. So the problem is not that we don't know the solution. The problem that we have in a recalcitrant Congress that refuses to pass any version of comprehensive immigration reform in this country that could deal with this issue. We need those migrants in this country. America would be at negative population growth if not for migration. If you need to see an example of what that looks like, China is at negative population growth because of decades of their one-child policy. Because of this, you have a graying population and you have a youth unemployment rate of 31%. Because young people, simply put, cannot move into jobs. There are not enough people to replace them, and they're going into a place of economic decline because their immigration policies don't allow new people to come in. You're seeing a very similar situation in Japan, where people are now working into their 80s and 90s because there's no young people to replace them because of their immigration policies. This is a blessing that we have in this country, and for the people who think that, well, we're too crowded already, we don't have enough space, 90% of the U.S. population lives east of Dallas. So if you look on the map, draw a line straight up, 90% of America lives east of there. The rest of the country, empty. From there on out, you have Vegas, you have Phoenix, you have L.A., and a couple other cities on the West Coast. The rest of the country is completely empty farmland that is in need of workers, and none of our children are going to go out there and do the work that is necessary. So we have to work on a federal solution to these problems. And this idea that somehow, well, these migrants are coming and stealing opportunities from black folks, my competition isn't somebody who walked 1,000 miles to get here yesterday. First person killed in the American Revolution was Kirsten Adams. We've been here from the beginning. My competition is in those boardrooms. My competition is in the Magnificent Mile. My competition is in the houses of Congress and in the state houses to make sure that we get access to the resources that we need. For our migrant brothers and sisters, my family is from Haiti also. God bless you. Fight the fight that you fight. Tell me how I can help you with that fight. But I'm not taking my eyes off the prize of the people who still have not paid us reparations in this country. And this idea that somehow we have to be in competition with people who just got here for resources is not congruent with the facts as they exist, and we have to keep our eyes on who the fight is really against, and not allow them to turn us against each other.
Amen to that.
Yay!
Reverend
Get
Thurston?
it, Robert. Get it.
Well, I mean, it is, but because it's a both and, it's not an either or. Reverend Thurston?
Mm-hmm.
Santita, don't have me to come behind all of that knowledge that was just spit.
You ready?
Okay.
You ready?
I'm hanging up the phone. I'm getting off the line. There's nothing left to say.
This is one of the preachingest machines in the world. I'm not even thinking about him. Don't feel sad. Do not feel sad for this guy. Ever.
No, echo everything that's been said. We are now facing the issue kind of firsthand. As I rolled up to the church yesterday, many of the migrants have left and departed from the police station, which is nearby, and are now camped out on our campus. And so we're opening our doors to them, making provisions for them. We have a food pantry, and I just believe in the concept of collective. As was just said, our competition didn't just arrive. Our competition has always been here. And so from the lens of the Good Samaritan parable, I believe that Samaritan was able to help that man that was lying half dead in the road, because as a Samaritan, he was also seen as an outcast in his community. And so, in a sense, game could recognize game. He could relate to the position and place that beaten and bruised man was in. And Black people ought to be able to relate to other people who have to run away from heinous situations and environments. And so I challenge us to be our best brothers and sisters keepers as we can.
Just very
function as a collective community.
But very quickly, and Dwight, I'm going to get you at the top of the hour. Why did you open your church campus? I mean, because this has Black folks in their feelings, and I'm gonna tell you, I get it. But I also know we've got to be humane. I also know the journey that we've been on, and I know, as Robert Patillo said, the game that's being played with us. I mean, these folks we have been trying to overthrow these leftist governments in Venezuela for decades. We've been trying to do that, to steal their oil from them. And now we have made the conditions so heinous that the people have to leave. That's horrible. Why did you open your doors? Why did New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church open their doors? 1 minute.
Because I can't take the mindset and position of the oppressor. I can't do to other people what's been done to us. We have to function as a collective community in this country. For us to be together as Black people in our community, when one doesn't have, we step in. As the old school, they don't have no sugar, come over here and get some, and then when you get some, you can bring it back. No pressure. We've got to go back to some of those old principles that helped our community come through some stuff and implement that with this community that's going through some stuff. To function as human beings. I see a lot of human beings, but I don't see a lot of humanity being displayed. And we have to be that humanity center there in our community. So whatever we can do with our limited resources, I'm going to stretch out and reach out and do what I can to be a blessing to people.
And not take
everybody's
the
my
mindset
neighbor.
of the oppressor. Oh, let's talk about this, everybody. The same plan that is being given to the migrants should be given to all Americans. We're all struggling. All struggling. Let's talk about it on the Santita Jackson Show. Back in just a minute. 773-763-9278. We stay up on the chat line on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Back in just a minute. Wow. Okay. Wow. Wow. And wow. Well, you all, please don't be silent now. We're on YouTube and Facebook.
I was going to say, Attorney Robert Patillo woke up and he snapped. He was like, "Let me tell you about the life that we're living."
When he woke up, he showed up.
I enjoyed it.
But you know what? I love what everybody had to say. And that's why there's so many of you here, because these are voices that are not yours, or voices that are not being heard in this discussion. And I think we've got to open it up. I was out last night with my brother, Congressman Jackson. He was honored by the Illinois Hunger Association, along with Carol Moseley Braun. It was great to see her, the first African-American woman to be in the U.S. Senate, Ambassador Carol Moseley Braun. And she's doing quite well. A few years ago, she had a stroke. You'd never know it. She looks fabulous. And she is, but she's a brilliant woman, developed mind, all of that. And that also helps you when you are recovering from illness, particularly brain illnesses. Well, that having been said, as we were coming back, because we dropped off Dwight, Claudette Evans Pye, Reverend Clay Evans' daughter, my oldest friend in the world, and we just dropped her off, and we were coming back home. And you passed one of the tent cities, if you will. And my heart just went out to these people because it was cool last night. And I said, ooh, wee. But then I thought about some people in the apartments that are adjacent to those tent cities, folks who can't afford water to pay their water bill. People are being mistreated by their by their landlords because they don't have enough money to pay the rent. And on and on and on. And historically, that is what's happened to African Americans. I just don't want us to fight each other, and I see that happening. But I also see people not really understanding what Black Americans have gone through. And that happens, Attorney Sanat, all the time. Folks get here, then they get shot.
And I brought this up with you, Sora Jackson.
Yes, absolutely.
About the distinction between the Black immigrant versus the Blacks that have been here. I guess you can say the American diaspora that came here by force. It's as if, I think Attorney Robert Patillo mentioned it also. They try to put us against each other, but we all came on the same transatlantic slave trade, right? The difference is some got dropped off in Haiti, some got dropped off in South America, all through the Caribbean. There are 29 different countries in Africa that speak French because the French colonized those countries. There are 5 Caribbean islands, including Haiti, where they speak French because the French took over them too. So when we're thinking about, what is it that everyone, quite frankly, is looking for? Everyone is looking for the same piece of the pie, but you don't need to look for the same piece of the pie. You just need to know how to build the pie so that we can work together and have these things done. Because the trades that exist here in the United States, they're being run by a lot of different unions, right? And all those unions are being run by what? Generally immigrants from different European countries. Am I wrong or am I right? So why is it that we're not encouraging our students, Kenwood, Hyde Park, all of these schools, these public institutions in which there's a majority of us there, why aren't we encouraging them to take on some trade so that they can learn how to build the building, wire it with electricity, give it some plumbing, give it all the things that it needs to do in order to build the housing, in order to build things for everyone, not just, of course, ourselves. I think that's the problem here. I think we're not encouraging things the way they used to be encouraged. During the Cosby years, I like to call them the Cosby years, those 8 seasons that the Cosby Show was on, there was a big spike of Black children wanting to go to HBCUs or just go to college in general. But then after those Cosby years were over, there wasn't that push anymore. There wasn't any kind of direction or fold given to that younger generation. Now we have a lot of different people who don't even really want to graduate high school because they don't see the possibilities or the potential of making it to, as Attorney Patillo said, the magnificent mile.
But honey, wait a minute. 99% of the counties, it came out in a CBS report this week, 99% of the counties, Americans cannot buy homes there in the United States. So that is why you see the craziness in Washington, because people are like, whoa, hold on, I am not getting what I need. And quite frankly, there's also, and we have to look at that too, there is not enough of an acknowledgement by our Black and brown migrant brothers and sisters of what Black people have gone through in this country. Oftentimes it's when you get violated.
They know what you've gone through.
No. Some people do not.
But that's what I'm saying. The acknowledgement is there.
No.
So they know what you've gone through.
No.
The problem is they can't express it to you because they don't speak the same language.
No. Some people don't know. I've talked to enough African brothers and sisters. I'm a little older than you. I've been going to Africa for 50 plus years. And they will come here and go, wow, I didn't know about Emmett Till. Wow, I didn't know that this happened here. And they don't come here and live on the South Side. They live north. I'm not pushing back against. Look, my grandmama was a migrant worker, and my grandfather went back to the Caribbean, never to come back here because he felt that the racism in America was so egregious and outrageous. He said, I refuse to do this. He told my mother bye when she was 4. I get it.
Hi, Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
We have Representative Ford on the line. We have a minute till we come back. We're still working on getting Reverend Hatch and your other guests.
Okay,
but we will let you know when we're
fantastic.
ready.
Well, we can roll them into 7:30. But stand by.
Perfect.
Representative Ford.
Yes, I'm here.
I'm so glad. Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. I'm glad we could work it out because I know you're busy. But stand by, boy. We've been having quite the discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, stand by. But Soror Sanat, I'm hearing you, feeling you. I think that's why we have to have these. We have to flesh out these discussions. And Aaron, I'm going to have you come just mention Indigenous Peoples Day. We need to work on that for Monday. Okay. Is Erin still there?
Yeah, Indigenous People Day on October 9th.
She should be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's on Monday, and I think, as we're talking about the history, as the professor Robert Patillo schools us always, it is important to reference that we're all on stolen land, right? And that we give the least and cannot still honor our treaties with our, the nations that exist within our nation, and it's far too long.
Stand by. We're about to come back.
Stand by.
So I know Santita's done an amazing job of highlighting this important issue with Chief Hoskins from the Cherokee Nation.
Stand by. Hold up. I'm coming out.
Change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world. Change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody, back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. Boy, we're having a discussion about migrants, the crisis that we see in Chicago, in Los Angeles, in New York. It's important for us to remember that Chicago is a sanctuary city inside of a sanctuary. Okay, everybody, put everybody on mute until I can get through with this.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Everybody,
Okay.
put everybody on mute.
Been disconnected.
Okay. Chicago is a sanctuary
No, I don't
city.
know. Am I getting bad? Am I coming out bad reception?
Okay, wait a minute. Everybody, stop.
No, you sound great.
Can anyone hear me here? Stop. Okay, everybody. Thank you. All right. It's important for us as we have this discussion about migrants to know that while Chicago is a sanctuary city, it's a sanctuary state. So it's a political calculation for migrants to be dropped off in Chicago and not in Springfield, not in farm communities, not throughout the state, and not just dropped. There's a lot of gamesmanship that we're playing with human beings, their lives, not just children, but we're all children of God. You don't treat people this way. But historically, America's had a problem with treating brown and black people this way, indigenous people this way. And we got to talk about all of this because all this stuff is in the same basket. This wonderful panel is joined by Illinois State Representative LaShawn Ford. Cannot wait to hear from him in a hot second. But right now, let us get to some of these headlines on the Santita Jackson Show so that we can really see what we're looking at and how we can get through this. Here are some of the headlines. The Biden administration will build new barriers, a new wall on the southern border to try to curb a record number of illegal crossings. It's a shift for the president, who said while campaigning in 2020 that he would not build another foot of wall. At least 52 people were killed by a Russian strike in eastern Ukraine. A drone attack on a Syrian military academy killed at least 80 people. A jailed Iranian activist was awarded the Nobel Prize as she fights against the oppression of women in Iran, where women's activities and dress are strictly controlled. The Nobel Prizes in medicine, physics, chemistry, and literature were already awarded over the past week. Winners get a gold medal, personal diploma, and a cash prize. In Chicago, we'll have high of 61 degrees. It will be clear. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 52 degrees, partly cloudy. Major League Baseball, well, now we know who's going to be playing for the American and National League championships. The Rangers will be facing off against the Orioles. The Twins will be facing off against the Astros. The Phillies will be playing against Atlanta, and the Diamondbacks will be playing against the Dodgers. And in the NFL, something momentous happened last night. The Bears won.
Yes.
Mic drop on that. I didn't say they won last night. I mean, they won. They actually won a game 40-20 over the Washington Commanders. And of course, we dedicate the show to two giants of Chicago. Dick Butkus, one of the most feared linemen, defensive linemen in the history of the game. 8 out of 9 seasons, Pro Bowl, 80 years of age. And of course, he was with the Bears when the Bears were the Bears. I loved it. Gale Sayers. All these great players. He made his transition yesterday. And Vernon Oliver Price, one of the giants of music in the gospel field, made her transition. She was just bowling 2 nights ago and singing until the very end. Of course, we know her as one of the famous Oliver sisters. Her sister, probably most prominent among them, is Loretta Oliver, of course. She has been the lead soloist at the Operation Breadbasket, Operation Push Choirs, at Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church Choir. And they are just giants, and we thank God for the life and the legacy and the testimony to the power of God from Vernon Oliver Price, sending those families, all of my love today. Chicago is a sanctuary city. in a sanctuary state. Let me bring you this particular headline. We've got Attorney Aaron Connolly. We've got Attorney Anastasia Snot, president of the Haitian American Lawyers Association. We've got Attorney Robert Patillo, host of his own show on WAOK. You can catch him on media all throughout the week. And of course, it's from 1 to 4 every Sunday, Eastern Standard Time. We have got Dwight McKee, a brilliant social scientist. And I'm going to be hearing from him before we hear from Illinois State Senator LaShawn Ford. And Dwight McKee, why don't you respond to what you have been hearing? And of course, Pastor Stephen Thurston, newly installed pastor of the New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church, and they have opened their campus to house the migrants as we seek to get them placed. With 16 million vacant units of housing in the United States, we're looking for a place to put people so they can live. Dwight, what is your assessment of this crisis that you say in many ways is an opportunity? Dwight?
Well, Robert covered most of it, but it's interesting there are twice as many Ukrainians here as they are Hispanic people that have come up from the South. But when it's the Ukrainian crowd, it's called an opportunity. When it's the Hispanic crowd, it's called a crisis. And what the difference is, one is white, the other one ain't. And so the problem is not so much who's coming up, it's how they've been concentrated in one area. What they're doing from the South, from Texas and Arizona, is sending the migrants up to cities with black mayors for the most part because they have an innate sensitivity to the plight of displaced people, given what black people have gone through. And so the concentration and the burden of having to carry the load is being concentrated in 1 or 2 cities per state. The fact of the matter is that these migrants have to pass through Springfield. They have to pass through Effingham. They have to pass through Joliet to get to Chicago, but they don't let them off the bus down there because white people, for the most part, have decided that they're not going to accept the burden of bringing them into their communities. If the burden was less concentrated, then the problems would be less concentrated because you got a country that, 50 states, most of the West is not settled and can use the population growth, but they don't send them there and they don't allow them to come there. They don't invite them there. They put them in the cities where the people there are already poor and struggling to fight over the same 2 or 3 resources. And so now the people in the cities, mostly the black people, the urban populations, feel imposed upon because they think that the little they have is being taken away from somebody else. And in some cases, they're right. The schools that were closed for the black community has not been open to the Hispanic community. And to the benefit of the white teachers who now they can maintain jobs that they would have lost. Even the black teachers don't have an opportunity for those jobs anymore. And so there's an imbalance. There is a redistribution of limited resources, and it creates this class war between the urban poor and the migrants who have been driven out of their communities because most of Venezuela, most of those countries, many of them have been sanctioned by America, who actually want the migrant population to leave. They just don't want to bear the responsibility of having to integrate them in all of America. They want them, want the urban cities to bear the load, and so they don't require the other states to assume any of that liability. They're happy to let it go to New York and Chicago. Other than I think Patillo covered, all of the real ground in this. It's strategic. It is a strategic plan that they have to bring in them to utilize their labor. They lost 500,000 people in the pandemic. Just so happened that they made a deal to bring 500,000 Venezuelans here because they have need in his hospitality community and the cheap labor base and agriculture community. So they're not arbitrarily bringing them up. They're forcing them to come up, but they don't have a real plan to disperse them when they get here.
Illinois State Representative LaShawn Ford, you are having to deal with this issue every day indeed as one of the most esteemed elected officials in the state of Illinois, and you've served so well for so long. I mean, this is literally on your doorstep. How do you see this?
You know, Santita, you're right. I live in Austin, and I live very close to the 15th District Police Station. And I see it in a way that is, you know, inhumane, that people have to live outside on the street. It's the same feeling that I've been having for a very long time when I see Americans sleeping on the ground. I have the same feeling for them because, as you said, we're all God's children. And so it's inhumane that we can't have a comprehensive plan to take the human beings off the streets of our major American cities and give an opportunity, you know. So it's unfortunate, and I hope that this becomes a real opportunity to deal with homelessness in the city and the state of Illinois. I think the governor has used his executive power to name a chief for homeless prevention, and so has Mayor Johnson. He used his executive power to name a chief to deal with homelessness in the city of Chicago. So although this is such a tragic situation, hopefully it becomes something that puts us in position to deal with homelessness in a better way in our city and state. You know, my fear is that Black people have been put in another position to have another group of people in opposition with us. Mm-hmm. You know, the new migrants that's going to remain here, they're going to probably see Black people as their enemy. And so now we see some white people see Blacks as their enemy. You know, sometimes you see the Italians might see us as their enemy. And that's a problem. Even the African community have seen the Black Americans as their enemy because of what they were taught about Black people when they came to America, you know, and how they felt they were treated by Black people. So now this situation has strategically placed the migrants in Black communities and other communities, whites. They come into those communities and they bring food, they bring clothes, they sing with them, they play games with them. And now they look like they're the good people. Yet the people that's bearing the brunt of the arrivals, it's painful to them because they see their child without. They see their mother, their brothers without. And it just seems like it's a whole plan to help these people while there seemed to be no plan for Black people overall.
We're talking with Illinois State Representative LaShawn Ford and the panel about this migrant opportunity. I mean, you've heard Dwight McKee, brilliant social scientist, say, hey, this is, when it's white, when these are white people, this is an opportunity. This is their opportunity. This is America's opportunity to absorb some more people in. But when they're brown and Black, not so much. No, they're a problem. You know, please just make the distinction between, or is there a distinction, or is there like a blending with the fact that, I mean, we look at Chicago as a sanctuary city, but we're actually a sanctuary state, Representative Ford. What does that mean?
Yes. You know, it just means that the entire state, the governor And the legislature actually said, yes, we will be a welcoming state to the to migrants from across the world. If you come here, we welcome you to our state. But what happens, there's something called home rule. Each municipality, each city would have to also vote to say we are a welcoming city. And so Chicago voted for that in concert with the state, but other cities have not. And so when you talk about Springfield and other places, those places never said we're going to welcome migrants in our cities. We're not a welcoming city. And so that's why they don't stop in those other cities. And, you know, as spoken before, it would make sense to bring and spread the migrants across the state so that the problem isn't so pronounced. Then it wouldn't look so inhumane. But they don't want in Springfield or any of those other towns, even if the government said, we're going to give you money to house the people today, they know that this comes with a long-term commitment and an impact on their schools, on their hospitals, on their crime, and they don't want anything to do with it. And so that's why they're not voting for their cities to be sanctuary.
This is unbelievable. I mean, why are they not? Why is the rest of the state not sharing the burden, Representative Ford? You know, the responsibility. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of, I think, that we can see the reality of Illinois and who cares about people across the state. The entire state, when you look at the map, we win as Democrats and it's blue, but a lot of those blue counties, they will never, ever accept this type of poverty in their communities. And that's why. And Springfield is really poor. I mean, when you talk about poor, they need population in Springfield, and they need workforce in Springfield. And for them not to say, we want to do our part because Illinois is a welcoming state, you know, it's really telling that we have a lot of racism across the state, and I have to give some of the pause to it as well, because it's true that these cities don't have the capacity as it relates to economics to deal with the migrant crisis. So we have to look at it that way as well. Many of the cities and municipalities across the state, they're struggling with their own finances. And so to burden them with more people, which will burden their finances, you know, you have to say that they may be doing it for that reason as well.
Well, they'd rather be broke than black.
Oh man, you got that right. It's really sad that and in the face of blacks and all our struggles, it would make sense that this crisis is one that shines the light on the black struggle. We thought that the COVID was going to shine a light on the black struggle because we said that the black community, the black people, were the hardest hit, and we thought that it was going to turn the tables on the distribution of funds. It did for a minute, but we went right back to where we were.
Calls at 773-763-9278. Pastor Marshall Hatch, I mean, getting people from all over town. You know, the New Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church, you see Pastor Stephen Thurston, they've opened up their campus to these migrants. He said, you know, we cannot adopt the mindset of our oppressors. We also have to understand where black people in particular, because we're seeing the fight break out as Representative Ford pointed out. You're seeing it break out, and you're seeing it play out on television in the black community. with no context, Pastor Hatch. The last 2 minutes belong to you.
You know, absolutely. I think I'm right down the street from Representative Ford now, and our police station is inundated with the people we're calling migrants, and I think the numbers are woefully underreported. By the way, this is a deluge. And we got to begin, though, those of us in the Black community that call the leadership, I have to begin with Black pain. So we got to validate the pain of the people, the pushback of the people, in the way that the people feel that is this crisis is manufactured now again overshadows, Black pain and all the ways that that economic violence and social isolation has happened for Black people, particularly in Chicago. We got to look at this is a created crisis. It's a strategy. We got to ask ourselves, why has Chicago become an epicenter for this crisis and now the national kind of face of this crisis? Because the Democratic Convention is coming here next summer. See, this is manufactured. This is all part of a political football to throw Chicago into chaos because it's all part of the upcoming 2024 election. That's what we're looking at. And so the question is, how do we respond? How do we respond? And Representative Ford can tell you, our police station, the Black community here on the West Side, inundated with migrants. There's a lot of resources right across Austin Boulevard in Oak Park, where all of the highly resourced so-called good people are. They're not over there, which is just a few blocks away. So you can see that the strategy is to pit Black people against these people, and we're calling them migrants, which really bows to the history. Because if they were like foreigners, we call them immigrants. We're calling them migrants because we're going to have to rewrite American history. We thought that the so-called Indians were annihilated. They were not. They were moved off the land. And guess what? They're coming back home. Now, that's part of the
How about that part?
poetry of the
They're just speaking Spanish now, right? They're indigenous people.
They should go back where they come from. That's exactly what they're doing.
Wait a minute. What did they say?
And so that,
Pastor, do they say, look at God?
Look at God. That's part of what's going on here, which means we got to have a long-term strategy other than reacting and begin to see that at some point we're going to have to make these folks our allies. We're going to have to see that the corporations are behind this. This is not happening accidentally.
Thank you. Would you please
Capitalism needs cheap labor.
tell somebody? But just hold that thought. We're going to talk about this when we come back on this. That's why I opened the show as I did. You don't see Chevron in this. If you don't see these American corporations in this, you're missing the whole point. I could go over to Santita Jackson Show just a minute. Amen. Why you here? Back in just a minute. Okay, thank you. Okay.
It's very interesting how when we talk about migrants, how quickly we tend to just focus on the Spanish-speaking migrants and the brown people. We always tend to forget the Black people. I bring it up because we're voluntarily coming here, even though the transatlantic slave trade put us on this part of the world, but we're still voluntarily coming to the United States. And when you think about how we blend in Black communities and how we're not noticed in Black communities, it's unbelievable, but we're here. And I think that one of the reasons why we blend, right, is because we don't speak, right? You don't speak, you don't know that the person doesn't speak English, doesn't understand English, and can't necessarily assist you. But once we open our mouths, then it becomes, oh, no, you're looking for a handout. No, we came here looking to do better in our lives. Haiti has been in turmoil since the assassination of the president in 2021. There is no government. No one is elected and has been elected since that occurred. So what we have here is a situation where we can help each other. We have a whole bunch of Black people that are migrating here to the United States from other countries. Like I said, there's 29 African countries that speak French, 5 in the Caribbean. We can help each other.
Well,
I mean,
I think
they
that,
have trades and skills and things like that that we could be teaching our brothers and sisters that are here in the United States.
Well, hold on. Let me tell you the game that's played on us. Okay, even Newt Gingrich, who was the Speaker of the House, he went to Black immigrants and said, "You know what? You all a little bit different from these Black Americans. You work harder. You over-index in achievement. You're actually better than." That becomes a problem. I'm not saying everybody's guilty of it, Soros or not. But that
okay, because I was going to say, I don't think we all think that way.
No, I mean, but I would never say, I would never, ever push that kind of stereotype, ever. I'm just telling you what the problem that exists, that we must work on that too. Because Black people are always looking for allies. We've been alone here. We're looking for allies. You think we want to, I mean, we're the ones who've been lynched. We're the ones who've been treated. I mean, no one, we are just behind the indigenous Americans in terms of our treatment. But even they can blend into whiteness. We've never been able to do that. So I'm simply saying to you, we've got to acknowledge all of these issues. I mean, even understanding that President Moise, who was assassinated, many say we had a hand in that he was working with the progressive Venezuelan government along with Haiti and Cuba, because they were because of the wealth that they have in terms of oil in Venezuela, they have been able to help the poorer countries in that part of the hemisphere. And we have got to help people to understand the geopolitics here. You don't just have 7.3 million people leave a country. That's nuts. You got to understand, wait a minute, what's driving y'all away? Oh, okay. That's right. And
I mean, but you know, and I know that the reason why some of these places are in desperate need of other types of benefits is because the superpowers have come together and said we don't want them to have any economic advantages.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. We're saying the same thing. I say we've got to connect the dots and tell the whole story. We've got to connect the dots and tell the whole story. But I mean, Black folks are not just rejecting people. Soros or not. It's like, no, we've been so mistreated and so betrayed here. And these people, as Representative Ford said, and everybody on the panel, we've been lied to. And then they're putting
but
us
we
on
can't
TV.
Keep going into that same mentality I'm tired. We have to switch our mentality and say, how can we work together so that we can?
It's not just I am tired.
Rise up.
I am tired. I am tired. I'm tired of being betrayed. I'm tired of being lied to.
Stand by.
And lied on. Stand by. I'm tired of all of it. And I have the right to stand by.
Change the world, change the world. Yes, we can. We can change the world. We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Boy, oh boy. You know, everybody's really stirred up by this conversation today. I want you to stay here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel at the top of the hour. I'm going to get closing thoughts from everybody. But, you know, we're talking with attorney Erin Connolly might have had to go take her son to school, but we've got brilliant social scientist, Dwight McKee, brilliant lawyer and radio host from WAOK in Atlanta. But you can catch his show all over the country from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time every Sunday. Our attorney, Robert Patillo, from the national leadership team of Rainbow Push. We've got my soror, the brilliant Anastasia Shanat, the president of the Haitian American Lawyers Association. Always so glad to see her. And it's always invigorating talking with her, because we're looking for ways to build bridges so that we can understand there's no need really to build a bridge, because all Black folks were brought into the Americas on the same project, but we need to acknowledge that and understand it. And of course, we've had Reverend Stephen Thurston from the New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church on 77th and Cottage Grove. They have opened up their campus. They are now housing migrants. He said, we cannot adopt the mindset of the oppressors. We've been talking with the brilliant Reverend Dr. Marshall Hatch from the New Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church. Indeed, they have the Ma'afa Redemption Project. Dwight McKee is the dean, and it's their brainchild. And we thank God for all that they're doing to save our young people. And we have got someone who's explained this so brilliantly. Illinois State Representative LaShawn Ford, and we just thank God for his many, many years of service and your clarity of vision and purpose. As we go around, I wanted to also go to Texas, another state, another elected official, Representative Ford. We've got Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis. Their governor is sending all these folks up here, but I just think it's important for us to, have those of you who have to deal with the burden. You have to look in your budgets to see what you're going to do. We're getting 25 busloads of migrants in Chicago every day. We've had 17,000 over the past few months. And Mayor Johnson has taken a hit because he's wanted to fix the problem and not the blame. He said, no, I'm not going to blame these folks. But what he's going to have to do is expand it out, because I don't want him to take a hit on the black side of town, which is what he is doing right now. I don't want to see him take that hit, because people are feeling that he's ignoring Black folks in our pain, and going to the rescue of other people. And that's a very, very real feeling, because that's how this has been set up, right? But let me go to you, Commissioner Rodney Ellis. We've put a lot on the table, the corporatocracy and their malfeasance, and how they have been driving these Venezuelans, trying to steal their oil and messing up their country, so they got to leave. And it's just, and then your governor just puts these people on buses. Illinois is a sanctuary state, but he's sending them to Chicago. So all these Black mayors are being shown up and being put in a bad light.
It's so good to hear your voice, Santita. And if I'd known you had the brilliant Attorney Patillo and Representative Ford and all those other guests, I would have slept for 30 more minutes.
No.
But I'm just joking. When you call, I come. I want to point out a couple of things. And one is that, other than the people who own this land, at least the African part of the ancestry, or the part that, a lot of us will be ready to claim we Native American. They can't necessarily prove it, we'll claim it. So only we can count the African part and the Native American part of the ancestry of the people on this call. Everybody else on this call is an immigrant. I just want to point that out to you. We were brought in, but the Africans were brought in to do the work, the African slaves. The Native Americans were here, and a virtual genocide was attempted against them. Not virtually, it was. They just didn't kill all of them. So I do want to point out, everybody came here on somebody else's land, just at a different time. So I want to tell people to be a little careful. I even have to tell my Hispanic colleagues here in Harris County and in Houston that remember, before you grab the position, that is you in, pulled the ladder up. You all came from somewhere too. And want to point out, this land, by the way, in Texas, a good portion of the United States at some point was a part of, it belonged to Spain or Mexico. And for what it's worth, Mexico's independence was primarily, Texas was created over the issue of slavery, by the way. The impresarios were told several things. Obviously, you got to pay taxes if you come in, somebody lets you develop that land. And they said they want you to speak Spanish for those who are in the English first. And then they said you got to convert to Catholicism for all these God-fearing people. And they figured, well, okay, adios. You know what I mean? We're not going to church anyway on this land. Fine, we Catholic. That's fine. We wasn't going to church anyway. But here was the fourth one. That was the killer. You couldn't have slaves. There was a Black president. Google this. Of Patillo. That was a Black president of Mexico, according to research. Guillermo, he was the second president. Now, some would say maybe that's why he didn't last his whole term. They ended up not killing him, put him to a firing squad and killed him over some issue. But look, he was half Black, mestizos and Black. The pictures of him that are recorded. He ended slavery. Not only was that an Underground Railroad, this is National Underground Railroad Month, by the way. Not only was that one going to Canada, if you were trying to get out of Texas, Alabama, Louisiana, Tennessee, Florida, you couldn't make it all the way to Canada. Your best bet was to go south. But I want to mention that. I also want to give you another statistic. I'm going to let some others talk. There are 500,000 people who are in Harris County. In Houston, first of all, Harris County may be more. 500,000 people who are here illegally. So we have had to deal with this for some time, and to a great extent, We figured it out, maybe with some help from the federal government. I'd have to go do a little research and see what. But in many ways, the immigrant community is a big part. I'm talking about the part that's here illegally, since all of us are immigrants other than the slaves, as I said earlier, Native Americans, former slaves. But look, I mean, they pay sales taxes. That's the backbone of how we fuel our economy here. They're an important part of the workforce. Clearly, the country needs a national immigration policy. Bush tried. Clinton tried. Virtually every person in the White House of both parties, if they were serious, you got to find some way. Most people, not all of them, most people are fleeing abusive oppression somewhere in the world. I heard you talking about Venezuela. I thought you were going back to Chavez. A little footnote in history was some people would say that Chavez had a little African blood in him.
Oh no, he told you that.
Something other than that's when you went. You go with us when I went with your dad. Yeah. When we went down there to visit with him, he did say that. My Spanish was not what it should be. Was better than reverence. But he did say that.
His does not exist.
But look, here's an interesting theory: the blacker you are, no matter where you are on the planet, if you in a South American country, south of the border, if you in Africa, if you in Europe, if you are in the African American community, we've done so much to demonize blackness, even among our own. The blacker you are, the more you end up with the foot on your neck in the system. So I heard someone when I came on the line talking about immigrants who come in from Haiti. Half the population of Brazil is black. They're not fleeing at this point in the numbers that people were fleeing from other. So when Bolsonaro was in, a lot of people were trying to get out, but Colombia. I think officially, census, you Google it, it may say 12% of the people of Colombia are black. They used to say 10% of them were black in Colombia until Lula then around action program. So you get out of the caste system.
It's the blackest country outside of Africa. I mean, goodness gracious.
Yeah. Now they admit it officially. But my point is, they used to say on their proclaim. And, you see somebody, the color of these shoes I just put on, and they have blue eyes. And you'd ask him when I went down with Reverend Jackson, now, are you Afro-Brazil? No, Portuguese. Now they will admit, hey, you got this black skin and these blue eyes. That means they did a little mixing down there. Unlike in this country, what they tried to do with the former enslaved people in Brazil was just bleach out through mixing to get rid of the blackness and deny the African diaspora was a part of it. Now they embrace it. So, look, I'm glad to see Mayor Johnson is going to visit the border. But when they pick a date, I'm going to juggle my schedule, see if I can be help in some ways. If they have a chance, I would suggest they roll through some of these cities. I did Google this, and I'll be quiet. I'm curious to know what percentage of the population of Chicago is Hispanic, whether they in the country legally or not. Don't count voting age. I think the voting age population, black voting age population in Chicago, maybe about 20%, 22. Does that sound right? Not turnout, but voting age. But it'd be interesting to see what is the largest. Ethnicity is not necessarily considered race, but we treat it that way. But if you have more people of Hispanic origin in the great Cook County, great city of Chicago, then you have blacks. Off is about on par. Don't pull out whether they're in the country legally or not, whether they came in legally or not.
Isn't there black Latinos too?
Yeah,
Aren't there Afro-Latinos that exist as well? So they can mark both. They can mark that they're Hispanic. They can also mark that they're black. I think one of the main things that we're missing is an understanding of how America came to be. Because had it not been for the Haitian Revolution, the Louisiana Purchase would not have taken place. And Louisiana, as you had mentioned earlier, and all those states, all the way up to Canada, that were part of that Louisiana Purchase from Napoleon would not have occurred had it not been for the
Colorado, right? Even as far as
Espanola.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just saying, Espanola was called Espanola by Christopher Columbus, right? That's not the name of the island. The name of the island was Haiti. Now there's Haiti and Dominican Republic, but at the time it was named Haiti by the indigenous people that were there. And so when we think about all the contributions of these Afro-Latinos, we can't really segregate them with the word Hispanic, because the truth is they're Afro and Hispanic. We have so many people that are now coming into the United States that are not recognizing our history and our contribution to the world, because they are wanting to put us in these social structures of race.
Well, you know
what I'm saying?
Colorism
So
impacts
when you
them
mentioned
too.
Brazil and you mentioned all those Portuguese-speaking Africans, what it comes back to the same problem that we're having. The Black migrants that are coming here from places like Brazil, or people like what do you call it, Suriname, right, where they speak Dutch, and Haiti, where they speak French. All these Black people need information, but they're unable to get it because we keep putting them in categories of race and not ethnicity. Because what the truth is, you don't know who they are, and you don't know that they're African American until they open their mouth.
But also remember this, because colorism impacts us all. Many come here and they are able to get under that little, they get under the bar, and they move to whiteness. I'm not mad at anybody. I mean, I saw a girl whose hair was tighter than mine, and she said she was Polish when I was in high school. I was like, that's cool with me, but you look blacker than me, but I ain't mad at you. You know, these are
they moving to whiteness, or are they moving to economic independence?
No, they're moving to whiteness.
Are they seeing a way and a pathway to economic independence?
Whiteness is a political act, and it's a social and cultural act. It is in the United States. It is. And you know, because you know what you deal with. You know what you deal with. Wait a minute. In Haiti, the lighter you are, you know, if you're white, you're all right.
Yes.
If you're yellow, you're mellow. If you're brown, stick around. If you're black, get back. That has been the rule everywhere. And we're going to have to deal with that as we're looking at all of these things. Because the fact is, Black people have been put everywhere. You know, everywhere.
Yes. Now,
Everywhere.
Santita, when I mention it, obviously they decide. But imagine if when slaves came here, if you had somebody from the Congo and you had somebody from Ghana, and they spoke Nigeria, they spoke two different languages, although they were both Black. Obviously, if the only way you could communicate to somebody when they got off that slave ship was when they spoke your language, there was a tendency for you to, until you figured out another language, you at least ask that person, you know, how do I get out of here? Or how do I make it through this? Then eventually you learn the language. So I know it's a difference between race and ethnicity. I raise that to just raise that point. Whatever we've done is separate from your subject in terms of a right now issue. But this, whatever the world has done to demonize Blackness, even in our minds, let's just be real, even among Black people. I said, wherever you are, you know, I went to Libya once with Rev. You know, even if you're in Libya, they call them the blue people. The ones coming from the south of Libya, they make a distinction. But look, in terms of the right now issue, I get it. It's a challenge with 15,000 new people showing up in Chicago in the course of a year. So even if we have 500,000 people who are not in Houston legally, we've learned a way to assimilate that into the population, waiting for a consensus on the federal level what you do about immigration. Being from Texas, I always point out it was LBJ that created a color difference in America. It used to be the only way you got into this country was if you're white. There was a tilt towards Europeans to get in this country. It was LBJ, under the first Federal Immigration Act, that changed it so you could get in based on if you offered value, if you did something this country needed. That's what let Hispanics in. That's what let more Africans in. That's what let Haitians in. Now, over time, that has changed, but we have to figure out how some way we coexist and not go create battles with everybody. You know, we're no longer the largest minority group counting ethnicity in this country.
Absolutely.
And so if you want to pass something, when I got here on my 5-person governing board, I was the only Democrat, only person of color. 2 years later, 2 Hispanics came on board. We did redistricting. I drew the lines. The line that I drew, the strongest Democrat that had a shot at winning was Hispanic. And I endorsed that Hispanic, raised money because I wanted that other Democrat. You know, there was some Black people looking at it, but didn't have any money, couldn't raise any money. I made that decision. Now, I remind my friends, don't get amnesia, you know, but I have to be inclusive. I got an item on the agenda this week. I asked one of my Hispanic colleagues is going to recognize, and we got an interesting enslavement marker for people who escaped on the Underground Railroad going south to Mexico. He's going to put something on the agenda to help me do a park that tells the history of Black people in the development of Houston. I'm putting one on and going to take some land from his precinct, give him some money to create 2 Hispanic heritage sites in this, which happens to be Hispanic Heritage Month as well. So I'm saying, and then we're going to argue. There'll be plenty of issues. We're going to argue about what he wants in his precinct, what I want in my precinct. But somehow we try to figure out a way that we work together on the bigger issues. When hell, sometimes I could get in an argument with somebody that looks like me, from the same neighborhood, same group and everything, but not take it so personal. I turned it into a race, ethnicity issue just because we disagree. I always point out, well, we disagree for a simple reason. You're wrong, and you think I'm wrong.
Oh, that's why I'm really glad that we're having this discussion today, because I think it's so important that we flesh all of this out. I want to get a couple of thoughts, but everybody, if you don't mind, I'd love for you to stay with me just a little while longer on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel so that everyone can hear from everybody fully. But I've got about a minute for you, Pastor Hatch. Your thoughts.
We shared that this is something that we need to look at strategically, because it is a strategically created crisis designed to pit us against the migrants, and of course we need not fall directly into that trap. But I think that you stated earlier, we do have to begin on the Black side of town with Black pain. And then at some point have a strategic response. I heard on your show the long-term strategy. As these migrants come in, they are feeling a labor force need. The long-term goal would be to, of course, unionize them and then, strategically coalesce and then add power to power and create a better future for the country, for everybody. I think that's the kind of long-term strategy that we're going to need from leadership.
We're gonna need it. Dwight McKee, your closing thought, 1 minute.
Well, again, I think everybody said everything that these three said on this one. I agree with Pastor Hatch. We need a long-range strategy. We need not to be pitted against each other. But I think that the Republicans, or general white population, they also have a long-range strategy. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how they respond to all these migrants coming in. My theory is that they are going to now recruit Europeans from all over Europe to come in and balance that out, and they'll make a way for them. They will have a strategy, because they never want to lose power. And so you can best believe your bottom dollar that if they're bringing these people in, we're bringing us in for a cheap labor base, they're going to bring some other white people in so they will maintain the majority interest.
Tyrone and Mama D, I'm going to come to you just at the top of the hour. Let me go to you, Attorney Sanat. 1 minute.
I just want to make sure that everybody understands that we are all talking about uplifting each other, not necessarily talking down about anyone. And if you are truly interested in trying to help migrants, particularly in my case, Black migrants, and you can speak the language, can you please reach out to holla.illinois@gmail.com. Also, please consider, as I had mentioned earlier, they need haircuts. You know what I'm saying? So if you're willing to help some people get their hair together, right? I need you to reach out, brothers and sisters that are out there that are listening, please take some time to really think about how we can give to people, even though we are fortunate, but we're less fortunate than us. So let's think about working together, building that bridge, and stop pitting us against each other, and understand that we're all in the same boat, and we need to get out of this boat together, and we just need to help each other out.
And move ashore, everybody. Robert Patillo, last minute belongs to you. Is Robert still there? Well, please, he dropped the mic already. Everybody, stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show.
I was saying something.
On the mute, but go on.
I was saying something brilliant on mute, of course.
Of course.
I want people to remember that not one single lazy person is able to walk 1,000 miles through a desert with their entire family on their back looking for freedom. These people did not come here looking for a handout. They did not come here to be on social services. They came here to work and create a better life for themselves. And what we need to do is view this as an opportunity and a resource. If you can take the worst neighborhood in any major city, drop off 1,000 migrants with some hammers and 2x4s, and have it up and running in 2 weeks. So let's understand that these people are here to work. They're here to contribute. They're here to make this country better. And the only reason that we're fighting against them is because the people at the top of the economy, who we need to be fighting, want to keep us focused on the people, on other folks, instead of focusing on the tax cuts they're giving to millionaires and billionaires and how they are robbing us blind and keeping us down. Don't get confused. Don't get distracted. Don't play their game. Understand what the real fight exists.
Absolutely. And that is the real fight. And understand what's driving 7.3 million Venezuelans in particular from their country. America has been trying to overthrow them for decades. We want their oil, but it is not our oil up under their feet. The Western world is going to have to learn to ask and then receive what people want to give them. They can't just take. And those days are over, everybody. You're watching the BRICS nations become preeminent. You're watching those who were colonized become prominent, and the colonizers are being put in their appropriate places. And we're all God's children, and we all have to live together. Let us figure out a way to do that. I heard my pastor say, Reverend Clay Evans, I've never seen God make a mouth that God could not feed. I've never seen God have a vision without giving you provision. Everything that we need on earth is already here. And there's more than enough for everyone to have their basic needs met, let alone to enjoy bounty. We can do that. We can do that, and let us do that. Stay right here. I'm going to talk to you, Mama D and Tyrone. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. And so grateful to this magnificent panel for all that you brought, all of the light that you shed. You brought heat, but you gave us light, and you gave us some hope. I love everybody. Can't wait to be with you. Thank you all, my team, and the WCPT studios for putting on a great show. God bless you. If you all don't mind, let me go to Tyrone. Tyrone, what's on your mind? Tyrone? Is Tyrone there?
No, this is Mama D.
Okay, well, hold on, Mama D. We were going to Tyrone first, Mama D, if you just stay right there. Tyrone?
How you doing, Ms. Jackson?
It's great hearing your voice.
And thanks for the show. It is very informative, and it informs me as to how a lot of us really actually even feel about ourselves. So with that being said, we talk about migrants. We're not talking about all of the over 150 babies, black babies, and women that's been murdered and shot in this city. We're on the front line every day with these little homies. A lot of them with over 18,000 ex-cons that's released from prison, which I really should be the real asylum seekers, because that's the only political class and caste that's perpetually discriminated against by everybody, even black people. Their sons, nephews, and cousins that served their prison time, so-called quote-unquote debt to society, and can't come out and get housing, can't come out in all of these 6 or 7 communities where disinvestment is rampant. We always seem to find money to mass incarcerate black men and boys. But there's no money to fix the ills that perpetuate the violence all in our communities. This is unacceptable for me. You can't justify and rationalize, because most of these people talking this crap, they never on the scene when these babies' brains are being blown out in the city of Chicago. They talk this crap about helping somebody else. They don't even raise a voice about the murders. We talking about helping migrants. We got homeless little homies living in abandoned buildings right now. I could take most of these people. I could take you and show you where there's 5 or 6 little boys from ages 14 to 18 living in an abandoned apartment building in Inglewood, Lawndale, Austin, Auburn, Gresham. And you talking about helping somebody else when Black death is a hustle for sure in this country. From every socio-economical level, we are at the bottom. And from 18 to 24, unemployment rate for Black men and boys is over 60%. You talking about taking hundreds of millions and giving it to somebody else who's not even a citizen, and you don't take care of your own home. Every hypocrite on this phone line, every hypocrite that has said anything, when you start putting migrants in your own home, then I can believe that you so benevolent. When you have an extra room, or you putting them on your couch, or you putting a cot or a mat on your floor like grandmama used to do when we come to visit, then I'm going to believe you really about humanitarian issues. But when it's taxpayer dollars, when it's our money that has no transparency, that's making migrants, that's making Mexican, Latinos, whoever, wealthy and rich to come in and have the resources and the money to buy our homes that grandmama and them lost from coming from down south to work at General Motors and U.S. Steel, these people are buying all the homes and the land in Inglewood. When I go downtown, sister, there are Mexicans or Latinos and white men working these construction sites, not Black men and boys. The only lot we have, sister, and every civil rights leader and anybody that calls themselves a pastor are graveyards and prisons for Black men and boys. It hasn't changed. The conspiratorial plot to destroy Black men and boys is real. Here we are, J.B. Pritzker, our organization who does great work with doing real behavior modification of young men and boys in this city. J.B. Pritzker, every time people put a grant in for us, or like even with LaShawn, he gave us a line item of over 500,000 that translate into resources coming to Black community. J.B. Pritzker and his cronies took our money. Because if you don't line up with the Democratic narrative, you don't line up with the progressive narrative, then you as a Black man you got to be pigeonholed, and you got to be castrated with this current landscape of what's going on. So if you say anything against the current system of policies that is made to produce whatever agenda they're trying to produce, then you're an outcast. So, sister, I can't go with this crap.
Tyrone, help me, because we've heard you, and I think that you've made some great points. But what I need you to make the point. What would you like for people to respond to? Because during this call, and in the history, wait.
Yeah, you said what I like.
I'm about to. Just let me finish so that we can have an exchange here and engage. Historically, everybody on this call has fought for Black people to get their piece of the pie. Historically, that is what we have done. There was something Reverend Leon Sullivan, 60 years ago, went to Dr. King when my father was about to start working for him and said, you know what? You can sit at the Woolworth counter, but if you cannot afford to buy the hamburger, what's the point? So we need not just civil rights, we need silver rights. So that has been the fight. These are folks who have been on the ground every day, all day, every day. We also heard Reverend Stephen Thurston say we can't adopt the mindset of our oppressors. We also talked about Venezuela and how our government has been seeking to overthrow them. We also, Commissioner Ellis brought up the fact that these are basically Spanish-speaking indigenous people. There are a lot of moving parts here. I hear you, feel your pain, got you, because I think that watching Black people who've been historically disenfranchised, just ahead of the indigenous people of this country, it is very painful to see a rescue plan, not just for Europeans, but for everyone but us. So that having been said, because I want people to respond to what they've heard from you, I want you to make one point. Stay
Yes,
there.
well,
Stay there
yeah.
so that everyone
my
can.
point is,
Okay, your point is.
we don't have to worry about helping nobody else, because at the condition that we are not being helped, these young men and boys is going to drive you, everybody else, up out this city, because you have nothing for these young wolves that's out here living in these streets that have more guns than they have financial assistance.
Okay, hold on.
You're not gonna you're not gonna change that condition unless you fix it with that silver. You just said it.
No,
but there's there's no silver forthcoming.
I'm saying that's something that we have been fighting for. I'm feeling you, and that's something that, and we have to fight to continue to get those issues, to get to change the policies so that happens, because historically everybody's been embraced. I mean, whenever Black people have tried, we never got our 40 acres and a mule. I'm feeling you, Tyrone, but I want.
And then that's our problem. We should have got it.
It's not,
we
should have, and we've been fighting and getting lynched all the way. They've killed our leaders or they've silenced them as they have fought for it. And it's not that people. It's not that we've been still. If we'd been still, Tyrone, we'd still be in slavery. We have not been still. People have been fighting. It's just
we're just enslaved in a different way,
but the system itself.
It's a little more different.
That's not what I'm saying. I agree with you. But that having been said, the system, imperialism, is a system that is so deep. You don't even mention that the wealthiest person on earth is the head of the crown, which is King Charles. They own 1/6 of the landmass on earth. You don't hear that. You don't hear that America, there's a speculation is that America, maybe she still or he still owns American land because of something called the Lloydal rights. This is a deep system, and we don't even understand what we are in. Because wait one minute. No, hold on. No, wait a minute. Tyrone.
I'm talking about Chicago.
I'm talking about Chicago is part of a greater whole. You can't separate Chicago from the rest of the country.
No, I can't deal with Ukraine.
No. I didn't say Ukraine.
I
did not say Ukraine. Wait a minute.
You mentioned
Tyrone, stop. We're not going to shout at each other. And I'm
no,
not going to be.
I'm only sister.
Tyrone, stop.
No, I'm only saying to you, you're going to teach me. And I'm only saying to you,
Tyrone, let's speak to each other.
We are hurting out here.
Tyrone.
Listen, these young babies are hurting out here. They don't want to hear about you helping nobody else, but you don't have anything for them.
Tyrone, I'm hearing you, but you cannot overtalk me. Let's be respectful. That's the only way this is going to work.
Absolutely.
Tyrone,
okay,
stop.
let me know when I can close.
No, you have closed. I want other people to respond to you because you have talked for 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Stay
care,
right
Queen.
there.
You
don't have to leave. That is not how we're going to resolve
Don't leave.
this. You should not leave.
If you telling me about what bridge who got the most money in the world,
Tyrone, stop.
They need to rob
Tyrone, stop. Now I've asked you. Wait, Dwight. Wait 1 minute. No, wait. Because this is a Santita Jackson show, and I'm going to be respected here, and I'm going to have everybody else respected here.
No. I hear you. You asked me mine, right?
I asked
you asking
yours.
me my opinion?
Tyrone.
Okay.
Don't overtalk me. Don't do it. I will not do that with you. Stop.
I got it. But you don't lecture me about what the world is. I'm talking about Black people.
I'm talking to you, Tyrone. I'm asking you to let other people respond to you, and I'm asking you to deal with me and never stop respectfully. And that's it. Now, Dwight, you can respond. I am the steward of this show, and that is how we're going to, and we're going to do it the way that I'm saying we're going to do it. Dwight.
Tyrone, you made some significant points, and I commend you for your points that you made. You're right on point, and I didn't have any problems with your analysis. But just for the rest, me and Pastor Hatch have a program, part of our program, where we have 200 kids that we house and get jobs and teach. We pay, and we pay for the last 6-7 years on the west side of Chicago, and they are the kids who are throwaway young, who people are kind of giving up on. Most of them are dropping.
Dwight, I need you to. Dwight, wait a minute. I need you to get in the right area because you're cutting in and out.
We got 200 kids that we have on the west side. We house. They live in our housing that we put together over the last 6 years, and we give them jobs. We pay them, and we teach them, and we give them the rules and the tools for a better life. We take them all over the world. We take them to Washington, Mississippi, Africa, we invest in our young people. And these have been the throwaway young men, most of whom have come out of jail. All of them pretty much have dropped out of school. We get them back in school and and help them graduate. And then we get them employed in really nice, reasonable occupations. And so I think your indictment is correct, but I don't give all information. And so if you ever on the website and want to stop by the offer program, welcome. You can see that there's some real work made. Reverend Hatch, you want to respond to that at all?
I'll wait to Brother Hatch. I know Brother Reverend Hatch.
No, again, one of the reasons why we not open to migrants is because for the very reason we already got migrants, which are young people, many of them, housing insecure. So we don't have space for migrants from south of the border because we're already helping our own people. So I get that point. And I get that we have to start with Black Tame. I live in Austin, Paston, and West Garfield Park. And now, honestly, I can see a big picture. I'm a global citizen of the world, the African diaspora, the long history that's behind the context of what we're looking at. But my people aren't really there yet. So, I'm not gonna lead with the pain of the migrant. I can't afford to do that. I got to lead with the Black pain. But we also have to be strategic, which is what we talked about on this show. And, of course, this show is probably just has the opportunity for us to go in a much greater depth than any of the other forums that are available to us. And so the strategy long term is a lot more complicated than just our immediate self-interest and the immediate conflict. There are forces that pit us against these people, and it just wouldn't be intelligent to fall into that trap. All of this is back.
Brother Hatch.
This is okay.
Brother Hatch and Brother Dwayne, this is what I would say. So it's not about what you do. It's not about what Dwayne do. Since I've been home from prison, I can guarantee you, I've probably intervened in thousands of shootings. I put over 500 ex-cons to work in the last 4 or 5 years. So it's not about, and that's still not enough. And that's without any government, state funding. So we all do our shares of what it is. But every time I'm not hearing on these programs, if you got 51 million for migrants, I'm not hearing 153 million for Black people. See, this is the problem from every top level, from lieutenant governor to county board president to mayor to police chief to water reclamation to every political position and over 150 elected positions from state reps to automatic wards to congressmen to state senators are all Black people. I want to hear nothing else in this city about no white man, nothing. The problem is Black people and legislators who will have the audacity to legislate for funds or not stand against it in the Black caucus or in Springfield. To allocate to accept somebody doing that to us as a community who sent them to office in their elected capacity, and you have nothing for JoJo and Lil Boo Boo to really get a real behavior modification from the trauma of the war on the 1994 Clinton crime bill and the Reagan's war on drugs against Black men and boys in this city before I was even born. So you can't tell me we got all this for migrants, but we don't have a conversation about when and strategically when the money coming down the pipeline to deal with the issue and the disinvestment and the lack of training and the poor education that's pipelines to prisons that's been happening in our community for decades. I have no conversation with nobody about no issue of migrants or any other than Black man in Chicago and around this country. Tell me where our paper is right now. Let me know. If you don't know, tell me how we need to army up to go get it. That's all I want to talk about. Because at the end of the day, with them guns being pointed on our women and children and carjackings at an all-time high, robberies at an all-time high, murders of women and kids is at an all-time high. My goal is to stop the terroristic effect of violence on black women and kids in this city. And that's my passion. That's what you're going to feel. And either way, whether you like it or not, it may be your wife, your kid, your daughter, or somebody that become victims of the violence in Chicago that no one is talking about.
And we love it.
It can be no.
Yes, Tyra, I hear you. And I just, because I can't stay here forever, I want Mama D to be able to have her say before she goes. And that's why we have.
Thank you for your time. Thank
that's
you.
just so that you can hear me. That's why that's what we've been doing with Breadbasket and the Rainbow and Operation Push for 60 years. That's why I talked about Reverend Dr. Leon Sullivan and civil rights. And there are different organizations that work at this very differently. My father founded COCO, the Kenwood Oakland Community Organization, when he was at the University of Chicago. We work at it. Many people are working at it, and we'd love to see you because you have a lot to contribute. And there's that. Mama D, your thoughts?
Well, hallelujah, greetings to you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I got about 5 minutes for you because we got to go.
Okay.
Okay.
It is written. It is written, love thy neighbor as thyself, not instead of thyself. That is the slave master mentality. Now, the question should be not that there is enough for everybody, but who should have the priority? And it should be citizens first. Now, Mayor Johnson said that the asylum seekers are not immigrants and that they are protected by the United Nations. He was wrong. All the arrivals that have come and will come, they come from countries by choice, and those countries have a land and a language, except the ones kidnapped from a continent that came in chains. We're the only ones that are not immigrants. Indigenous Native American Indians and Indigenous Native American Africans. We are twin victims of this American genocidal holocaust that needs to be dealt with. In 2001, the United Nations voted slavery a crime against humanity, said it always has been. And in 2020, they designated 2015 to 2024 to deal with the police killings of black men and boys, not people of color, which are actually people of countries, not black and brown, black men and boys, massive school closings, and disproportionate arrests. And I have not heard not one civil rights leader, it's almost 10 years now, not one civil rights leader, not one talk show host, not one elected official that has dealt with that the United Nations came to Chicago State University and took testimonies on that designation. But everybody is silent on that. When it comes to until 1954, the Browns said that the laws was unconstitutional. Segregation laws were unconstitutional because they only existed to keep the status of the Negro down, not everybody down. But that was in 1954, and nothing has been done of the harm that was done to the children who are now in their 70s and have been forced to live a less than normal life because of the untreated heart, mind, subjugated syndrome, poverty damage. And every time the issue comes up, it's always, well, we're going to get to you when we stop Hitler from beating up on the Jews. Oh, well, Japan is done bombed Pearl Harbor, so we got to deal with that. Oh, but we got this Korean conflict over here. Let us take care of that. Oh, well, the Vietnam era and the Gulf War, as we don't get to you, as we say, enough is enough. I believe that if you got to deal with the crimes against humanity, but we don't say we got crimes against humanity. We don't call ourselves Jim Crow genocide survivors. We say,
Well, we might use
just
other,
like everybody
Mama
else.
D,
Well, you're not.
we might use other names for it. I mean, reparations was part of Reverend Jackson's presidential platform 40 years ago. So I'm saying it's.
No, I was specific. I said 2015.
No. What I'm saying is, Mama D, that people have been in this struggle. I've lived in the building with Dr. John Henrik Clark, and people have been doing this, and they do it. They might not do it your way. They might not use your language, but Paul Robeson went to the UN to talk about crimes against humanity 70 years ago. I mean, this is not a new struggle. Everybody carries.
No, I'm talking about
Mama
the
D,
United Nations
Mama
was at
D,
Chicago
Mama
State
D,
University.
Mama
I'm not
D,
talking about what
Mama
Paul
D,
Robeson
Mama D.
did or
You don't have to
somebody
shout,
else.
Mama D. I'm not your enemy. You don't need to shout at me. So don't do that.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, I didn't. I'm
you're
talking passionate.
No.
I'm talking about. I apologize.
No, please do, because you're
I
passionate.
think the phone is too
Mama D. Let me finish.
I apologize.
Please, thank you. Because the only way I understand everybody's passion, I'm very passionate and I get whipped up too. But I know people can't hear each other when we're trying to overtalk each other. It's not going to work. And I always told you all, I try to have a respectful platform. I'm from a very passionate family. No one gets more turned up with a T than my mama. Anyone who knows her. No one. But I know at some point, and my father stays real low and slow. But they've been able to make it 62 years, because at some point you got to meet somewhere in the middle, Moni. That's the way it has to work. So I'm saying to you, I hear you. But that was my point with Tyrone. Even though we don't quite have it the same way, I'm feeling you. But when I try to interrupt so that we can engage, because everybody's coming on here giving me a soliloquy, giving me a speech, but you're not giving me a point that people can respond to. And I have but so much time. And I'm sorry that Tyrone took, well, I'm not sorry that Tyrone took a lot of time. I hope he comes back. I hope he'll continue to call. Because, how many spaces do we have to air these views? Because these are our views and they matter. That's why I have the platform here. But when I interrupt, it's to engage. It's not to cut you off. But if I have to cut you off, it's because, like what happened to me yesterday, when things ran over, they needed the studio for another show. So when I tell people, even my guests, hey, everybody, when you hear my voice, please cut it off. It's because I am up against the clock. Not only do I host the show, I produce it. I got a lot of moving parts here. And I'm looking at the chat line. I'm trying to incorporate everybody. Okay, Mama D? So I want you to make your statement so that people can respond to it, and then we can go and get on with the rest of our day. Mama D.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No. What your point is?
Justice delayed is justice denied. My point is the United Nations came to Chicago State University and they took testimony and designated 2015 to 2024 to deal with the police killings of Black men and boys, disproportionate arrest, and massive school closing. I'm saying, and no one has gotten with the United Nations, and they said they haven't done anything because the interested parties haven't shown an interest. This is what they are saying. And I'm saying, Brandon Johnson, you've got crimes against humanity descendants right here that was voted on in 2001. And this designation happened in 2015 to 2024. The 10 years is almost up. And we have not, as a people, gotten with the United Nations and said, let us once and for all deal with these crimes against our humanity and let us use the correct language. Causing serious harm to children is defined by as genocide, and they said it's doubtful that the children would ever overcome it. Well, those children are now in their 70s. My question is, when can we have the platform to deal with the fact that we have not overcome it, and we need priority
In a nutshell, what do you want us to speak to, Ms. Mama D? Mama D, in a nutshell, give me a sentence. What do you want people to respond to? You're making some great points, but bring it in.
No one no asylum seekers or anybody else should have priority over the crimes against humanity, descendants, and Jim Crow genocide, part of the American genocidal Holocaust. Deal with that first as a priority.
Okay, so you want people to deal. You want people to deal with. No, just wait, Miss Mama D, Mama D, bring it in. You're giving people too much. I don't even know what the point is. Your point is what? You want people to respond to black fame
first. Vacate the sanctuary law. Vacate the sanctuary law.
Which is
first
what?
and foremost. Vacated. Harold Washington and City Council voted it in. Mayor Johnson and City Council can vote it out.
Mama D voted what in? What? Most people are not as learned. Mama D, you don't have to get louder. I hear you. I don't understand what you're saying. Just let me know what the statutory law is, so that you said you want people to vote vacate what? Because most people don't know what you're talking about.
I'm saying Harold Washington voted with the city council approval of the sanctuary law.
Which is what?
And I'm saying Mayor Johnson can, with city council's help, can vacate the statutory law.
Mama D? Mama D, what is it?
It's called the sanctuary ordinance.
Yeah, but what is in it?
What is in it is you are a welcoming city, but it doesn't mean that you should overwhelm the city.
Okay.
That is what the ordinance is. It's a welcoming.
All I was trying to do, Mama D, most people are not as learned as you. Most people are not deep into this topic as you. So, like when you learn how to write a book report, you're supposed to be able to know what the book is about in the first paragraph. That's what I want you to know. That's what I'm trying to ask you. Most people don't know what the statutory law is. Most don't know. So you're asking people statutory law. Okay, right. I'm asking you for the last time. What do you want people to respond to so they can respond and we can go, Mama D? I gotta go.
I want them to respond to take care of your citizens first. We are being overwhelmed.
That's it. And in a nutshell, that is what I wanted you to get to. Okay, Dwight, you want to respond to Mama D?
Well, she makes a good point. I understand everything she said. Reverse the law, and because the spirit of the law is to welcome people to the city. But the way the law is followed is that they've overwhelmed the city, and the city don't have the resources. When the city passed the ordinance, when the mayor passed the ordinance, he never did anticipate what we have now. He didn't anticipate 500 busloads of people showing up. He was looking at the reality of maybe having to entertain, 30 bucks a year. He never saw this coming, and so or think the ordinance. They didn't think have some help.
Dwight, you're going in and out.
I also think that they thought we'd have some help since it was a state ordinance. Also, that the state had the capacity to bring other people in and was willing to bring other people in. And now they've balked on that commitment. So the burden falls on one little part of a community that they themselves are half broke. So what she's saying is that they may need to rethink the ordinance.
Okay.
And then she's also saying the United Nations have designated us as pretty much Holocaust survivors, and nobody has spoken to that. Which is not that different than the last brother was saying.
Right. And all I'm saying is I need these ideas to be put in a nutshell so people can respond to them. Because this is not a lecture hall. You gotta get right to it, because you're making, Mama D, you make great points. But I need people to get the point. So let me go around and let me see who's left so that we can make some closing statements and we can get out of here today. Dwight McKee, I'm gonna start with you.
My point. You can go in and you do the rest of the panel.
No. I mean, is there anything else is there anything that you think has been unsaid?
Well, I think that I agree with Mama D. I think that we have to rethink the ordinance. I don't think we should not invite the people in, but I think that if
Dwight? Okay, you went out.
can you hear me?
Now I
hear me?
can. Now I can. Mhm.
All right. I think that we don't necessarily have to rethink the ordinance. I think we have to rethink the strategy.
Okay.
And if we're not going to get any help from the state, and we're not going to get any help from the federal government, then we need to have some plan that even in the city of Chicago, then we have to broaden the burden, because the south side and the west side bear the brunt of the burden. The north side, Beverly, the white communities, even in Chicago, don't invest or give up or have to sacrifice for this issue. And it does become patently unfair for one Afro community to have to bear the. And I don't call it first because, the moral issue, they have to bear the responsibility of trying to keep people afloat when they themselves are drowning.
Pastor Hatch, your thoughts? Is Pastor Hatch still there? Robert Patillo, your thoughts?
Well, this is kind of exactly what I was talking about earlier, that we have generalized grievances in the Black community that are completely valid. But instead of fighting back against the people who put us in those conditions, we fight back against the migrants who are in similar conditions for similar reasons. And as long as they can keep us fighting against each other, as long as they can keep Black folks having the same passion as Tyrone, the same passion as Mama D, at migrants, and instead of turning that towards the white supremacist system that we live in, they are able to avoid all accountability. Those Venezuelans are the ones that are the reason to Black folks have housing issues in Chicago. Nobody from Colombia is the reason that we haven't gotten reparations in this country and haven't been treated with respect. There's nobody from Central and South America or the Caribbean that is the reason that African Americans have been enslaved and oppressed for the last 400 years. But because they're an easy target, because we've been pointed that direction, we take out our stress, our anger, and our anxiety on them instead. I'll give you a couple of stats. You know, that Chicago, since the year 2020, has lost nearly 100,000 people in population. People have been fleeing the city in the last several years. So there's not that Chicago's overcrowded or we have too many people. Indeed, these migrants might be the best thing that could happen to Chicago because it's been in a nearly decade-long population decline. Also, this idea that there's not enough housing, a 2010 report said that Chicago had about 8.4% of housing being empty. That number in 2023 is nearly 15% of just empty, vacant housing, boarded up buildings, burned out, dilapidated areas that need to be filled with people with skills who know how to build, who know how to reconstruct, who know how to renovate. So instead of us turning our ire towards the migrants who are simply trying to escape the conditions that were created by the American war on drugs, by the American foreign policy, by America trying to dictate the leadership of other countries, we should be teaming up with them and coming together, because what we just saw in Congress this weekend, it don't take about 5 people to change every law in this country. You can shut down the entire government with 5, 10 people. You can replace the Speaker of the House for 8 people. So when it comes to demanding the rights that we want as a community, Congressional Black Caucus is 60 people. You form a coalition with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, you're talking about nearly half of the House of Representatives, or nearly half of the Democratic Caucus right there, just between the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. And if 5 or 6 people with Matt Gaetz can shut down the government, can change the Speaker of the House, what the hell can 110, 120 Congress people do when it comes to standing at the black and brown issues. So this is what I mean when I say we have to take our attention and stop performing this circular firing squad, thinking that the migrants are coming over here and they're getting stuff that we ain't got. The real question needs to be, well, why the hell is Elon Musk getting another $3 billion from NASA to deliver fuel tanks to outer space in 2026? Why is it that we're giving Lockheed Martin and Boeing and Honeywell additional contracts for hundreds of billions of dollars for airborne laser programs to shoot down missiles that don't exist from any other country? Why is it that we're building $13 billion Gerald R. Ford class aircraft carriers with electromagnetic lasers or catapult systems? So instead of us fighting against that, we say, well, there's a starving child over there, but my kids are starving too. Let's take the sandwich out their hand and put it in my hand. Instead of saying, well, we got enough sandwiches to go around, let's make sure everybody has one. And this is why they stay in control. This is why they stay in power, because they are able to turn us against each other so we don't fight them.
Well, Robert, I don't want you to misunderstand the frustration here that these guys are calling in about. 100,000 people, black people, didn't leave Chicago. 100,000 black people will run out of Chicago.
300,000.
They intentionally, 300,000 altogether. They intentionally closed the schools. They held on to the vouchers, to the housing vouchers, and say they would not give Section 8 to anybody who stayed in the city. And so they effectively ran them out, and then they tore down the projects because they wanted to turn this back into a white city. So the frustration that you're hearing from, at least from Austin, from Chicago, is that they've taken our resources, and then they denied the fact that they didn't have any resources to give us, and now all of a sudden they're finding resources to give to other people at our expense. And so they see this as part of a master scheme to displace them in behalf of other people.
Let me put a coda right there. When I put in period there, we'll put their coda there. I think that's where the issue comes in, where we say at our expense, we're finding resources for other people. Now, when they find resources to build a new stadium for the Bears, nobody says, well, that's at our expense. That is at our expense. Where they're giving tax breaks to bring more corporations into downtown, that's at our expense. When they're talking about these programs to beautify Magnificent Mile and clean up these other areas we don't live in, that's at our expense. So why is it that we have to go after the people who have nothing, saying, well, you got nothing, I got nothing, it's your fault that I ain't got nothing, as opposed to going to the people who have the actual resources, who have the actual political power? That's the point that I'm trying to make, that it's a false choice that they've created for us, this idea that the migrants are the reason we ain't got nothing. We ain't had nothing before the migrants got here either. So we need to be concentrated on the people who are actually in control of the resources and that they're allocating it appropriately. And it's a convenient distraction for them to be able to blame everyone else for what is happening to us currently.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I totally agree with you. All I'm just trying to explain is what the people see at the bottom. And when they see people move into their school buildings that they themselves got kicked out of. And the proximate reality is a little too distant for them, seems to be for them to comprehend. And so, you see the Bears buy for money for the new stadium, or you see $1 billion taken directly from the tip money to go to build, the new casinos. But that's not as threatening as you see people get off to the bus and then go into and live in a park that you and your kids used to play in, and now you think you don't have the right to go into the park because now it's been transposed in the housing for people who you didn't really even know. I think you're absolutely right, and I think what we have to do is draw the parallel so people can understand the reality of that it's not the people's fault that's getting off the bus. It's the people's fault that's controlling the resources.
And,
I
the fact is we're all getting played. 62% of our budget goes to the Pentagon and war-affiliated activities. It's a false choice. The fact is there's more than enough money to make sure that every man, woman, and child in this country has enough to eat, has a decent place to live, has a great school to go to, and can get educated, re-educated, and work. But that is a choice that the oligarchs have made for us not to do that. And that's what's awful, because we're fighting amongst ourselves when the people, while the 1% get richer and the poor get poorer. 99% of the counties in the United States, people cannot afford to buy houses. That's where we are now. We have 7 million more people in poverty today than we did last year. And we just keep on going on and on and on and on and on. And so, I mean, and the fact is, we've been talking about Black grievance. I grew up on that. I just know that we're part of a wider game here, Dwight. You talk about that all the time. You need to understand. You often say, "Hey, we need to understand how and why it is that we got here. What are we doing here?" This has always been a business project, and we were the chattel. Huh. So, I mean, it's all of that. It's all of that. And for people to say that folks have not been fighting for Black folks, that is absolutely untrue. Absolutely untrue. People have been fighting for us. It's just the system is so deep. I want to see what you're doing. And what are you going to do? With you, I mean, as you pick up the baton, what you going to do? Because other people have fought and they have had to fight until with all of their might till the very end of their lives, because the system is that deep. The oppression is that deep.
And it does not matter what happens at the UN, because ultimately the United States got veto power with the UN anyway. And that's how they got the system set. They got set up so they can't lose.
And I'm simply saying that, this is an argument, Mama D, that Paul Robeson made 70 plus years ago, while the American government was railroading him. So, I mean, people have recognized the game. Not enough of us have done that. That's why we're fighting each other. And we need to be fighting together so that you can fight the power, as Public Enemy said. You got to fight it. You got to fight it. Not fight the power, not each other, and fight for you to understand the power that you have. 62% of our budget goes to wars. That's what we're doing. It's not, and we don't even pay the enlisted soldiers. They're the ones who are basically on welfare. I can't wait till they start training them as they do it at these other corporations, so they can learn how to get food assistance. Because there are payday loan centers on the edges of these bases, because our enlistees don't have enough money to make it from payday to Monday. It's a game, everybody, and we're being gamed. So you know what? I think that we need a Marshall Plan for all Americans. How about that? For everybody who comes here, and stop trying to grab other people's oil from underneath their feet. Stop doing that too. Just really, the West needs to learn not to take, but to share and to ask. And if people say no to you, okay, then go on about your business. God gave you something to do. So I love you, everybody. Is there anything else that you all need to say? All right, then we are going to go. It has been a great show. There was a lot of passion, a lot of information. I hope that you all got that, and we'll continue this conversation, because it's a conversation that I think we need to have. I really, really do. And maybe we'll have it on Sunday, but we'll certainly have it again on the Santita Jackson Show. I love you, everybody. Thank you all for a great show today. And like and share the show. Like and share the show, everybody. Like and share the show. All right. Love you. God bless. Bye-bye.